Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Parallel Deku. Back with another fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Returned as the Shadow Monarch. Now before starting, please give this video a like. And subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Before the betrayal, Izuku Yagi was a 16-year-old boy with the quirk known as One for All. He had a deep appreciation for his friends and family, martial arts, and ice cream. He was dedicated to becoming stronger and cherished his time at Union Academy, where he was part of Class 1A and Class 1B. Izuku held a strong disdain for villains, bullies, and anyone who threatened his loved ones, including the League of Villains and Overhaul. After the betrayal, Izuku transformed into Izuku Sung Kurosaki, a 21-year-old known as the Shadow Monarch. He had taken on titles such as the Soul King and the God of Death. His personality had shifted to become cold and ruthless, yet he remained kind and caring toward those he loved. He now had a new harem and shadow soldiers, dedicating himself to training and honing his powers. Izuku's new life was marked by his immense strength, speed, and endurance. He had mastered various forms of manipulation, including darkness, reality, and time. His abilities allowed him to wield chaos and destruction, as well as heal and create weapons. He had become a formidable force, feared by many, yet he still held a deep connection to his past and the people he cared for. His hatred for Union Academy and his former life fueled his determination to protect his new family and nation. Izuku's journey was one of transformation, power, and the relentless pursuit of strength to safeguard those he loved. Divine Holy Creation Magic, Ultimate Magic, Death Aura Manipulation, Moon Eye, Emperor Eye, Domain Expansion, Haki, All Forms, Reaper Command, and Reserved Eyes are just some of the abilities Izuku has mastered. He has also perfected all martial arts, reaching the peak of his physical strength. His strongest allies include Bellion, Igris, Baru, Kamish, Tusk, Iron, Casiel, Tank, Greed, Jima, Godzilla, Frost, Void, and Abyss. His arsenal consists of the Shadow Kamish daggers, Snow Flower, Zangetsu, Chaos Reaper, Demon King daggers, Shadow Wrath daggers, and the Demon King longsword. Izuku has created a nationwide city where quirkless individuals and those without powers can live peacefully, free from discrimination, violence, and unfair treatment. In this city, everyone coexists in harmony, and Izuku has ensured that his people are safe. The city is known as the City of Dreams, with Izuku's castle at its center. He has stationed multiple shadow soldiers around the city to alert him of any dangers that threaten the peace he has established. When attending meetings or making deals, Izuku wears a suit that conceals his face, serving as his vigilante attire, with the code name Lord Shadow. Izuku's past relationships have been complicated, particularly with the girls from Class 1A and 1B, including Rias Gremory, Mionars, Stella Vermilion, Nijire Hado, Katsumi Bakugo, and Shoka Todoroki. His main romantic interest is Kana, also known as Lady Nagant, who is the reincarnation of Cha-Hei-In and Rukia. After regaining her powers as the Monarch of Light and Goddess of Ice, her appearance transforms, with her hair turning white and her eyes becoming blue when she uses her ice abilities. Other notable figures in Izuku's life include Makima, Tesha, Zani, Quaratia, Ria, Tia, Camellia, Arlecchino, Eyeball, Miko, and Mavuka, each holding their own unique powers and titles. The narrative shifts to the world where mysterious powers have emerged, referred to as quirks, magic, visions, sacred gears, skills, talents, aura, and semblance. While 80% of the population possesses these abilities, the remaining 20% are powerless and often face discrimination. To support those with talents, Union Academy was established, becoming the premier institution in Union City. Izuku's backstory reveals that he was born without powers, leading to neglect from his family and bullying from peers. Tired of his circumstances, he left to train and grow stronger, mastering martial arts. His past mistakes were recognized, and he chose to forgive those who wronged him, even starting relationships with girls who had previously shown interest in him. All Might also passed on the One for All quirk to Izuku, who believed his life was finally on the right track, unaware that challenges were on the horizon. As the story unfolds, Izuku finishes a rigorous training session at the gym, feeling stronger than ever. He admires his physique and decides to buy gifts for his girlfriends in anticipation of their anniversary. He also plans to get presents for Eri and Kota. Despite being only 16, Izuku is wealthy and enjoys his new car, which he purchased to take his friends on outings. Meanwhile, at Union Academy, the headmasters discuss troubling evidence suggesting that Izuku has betrayed them, including a video that appears to show him collaborating with villains. They jump to conclusions without proper investigation, leading to a consensus that Izuku is indeed a traitor. The headmasters express their shock, recalling how Izuku had always aspired to be a hero. They decide to inform the students about the supposed betrayal, sparking harsh comments and disappointment among his peers. As the narrative progresses, the tension builds, setting the stage for Izuku's journey as he navigates the challenges ahead, determined to protect his newfound home and the people he cares about. As Akino and Niza discussed their plan to capture the villain, Akino expressed her concerns about their target's strength. Nizu reassured her that they would create a poison to weaken him. Meanwhile, Izuku was on his way to Union Academy, feeling an unsettling sense that something bad was about to happen. His eyes glowed blue as he recalled dreams from his past life, leaving him confused and on high alert. Upon arriving at the academy, Izuku noticed an unusual silence, which heightened his suspicions. As he entered, carrying a bag of gifts, his danger sense activated, prompting him to dodge a poisoned bullet. All Might then appeared, and before Izuku could greet him, All Might struck with a powerful punch. Izuku, having trained his body to its peak, managed to withstand the blow with only a scratch, but he was taken aback by his father's aggression. Izuku questioned why they were attacking him, but before he could get answers, Izuku appeared and launched a punch covered in kinetic energy. Izuku caught his hand, still confused about the situation. Katsuki then jumped in from behind, unleashing a powerful explosion that engulfed Izuku. As the smoke cleared, Izuku remained unharmed, with only his shirt and jacket burned. Frustrated, Izuku demanded to know why he was being attacked. Just then he was stabbed from behind, causing him to fall to his knees and cough up blood. As the rest of the students emerged, Issei punched him with his gear, knocking Izuku out. They bound him to a chair with magic seals and quirk cuffs, and Izuku questioned why he was tied up and labeled a traitor. Kendo, one of the students, silenced him and punched him in the face, causing him to spit blood. The girls hurled insults at him, breaking his heart. When Eri and Kota entered the room, Izuku hoped for their support, but instead, they called him a villain, shattering his spirit. As they continued to torment him, Izuku was forced to witness his friends engaging in activities with his classmates, deepening his despair. When the authorities arrived to arrest him, Izuku's eyes were empty, reflecting his shattered trust. Niza confronted him, but Izuku snapped, warning them that they would regret their actions. He expressed his disappointment in Eri and Kota, and disowned his past relationships, leaving them hurt and confused. After being taken to Union Hospital for healing, Izuku was sent to prison. 3 days later, he was seen dragging a body, surrounded by others that were knocked out. The Academy celebrated their supposed victory over the traitor, unaware that they had created a vengeful force. Izuku, now known as Death, for his ruthless fighting style, had been training relentlessly in prison. He experienced dreams of his past lives, feeling his strength, speed, and intellect returning as he embraced his new identity. While Union celebrated their capture of the traitor, they were oblivious to the monster they had awakened. What no one knew was that Izuku was not the traitor they believed him to be. Instead, they had created a force driven by vengeance. The scene began with Izuku in the bathroom, having just finished his bath. He observed his reflection, noting how his body had become more muscular, his hair turned black, and his eyes had changed to a striking red. He felt a mix of confusion and satisfaction, appreciating his new look. In the shadows, a group of mysterious figures discussed the situation. They expressed their anticipation for their liege to regain his memories, noting how his strength, speed, and intelligence were returning. They spoke of the Shadow Monarch, also known as the Soul King, who would soon rise again. Izuku donned his prison attire and returned to his cell. He received a call from the warden, who informed him that someone wished to see him. Curious, Izuku made his way to the meeting room, where he found Inko and All Might waiting for him. All Might greeted him, urging him to sit down for a conversation. Izuku felt a mix of surprise and resentment at All Might's presence. Inko insisted that he return One for All, claiming he was a mistake and unworthy of such a powerful quirk. Izuku retorted, reminding them that he was the last user of One for All and that it could not simply be transferred. He expressed his feelings of betrayal, stating that they had disowned him and labeled him a mistake. All Might questioned the changes in Izuku's appearance, to which Izuku coldly replied that it was none of their concern. He unleashed a dark aura, causing both Inko and All Might to recoil in shock. He declared that he no longer cared about them and that they were dead to him. The warden interrupted, announcing that it was time for lunch, and Izuku smirked at Inko and All Might, vowing that they would never reclaim One for All. He promised that once he proved his innocence, he would seek revenge and nothing would stop him from achieving it. As he headed to the cafeteria for lunch, Inko reflected on how deeply Izuku's words had hurt her, while All Might lamented that he had made a grave mistake in giving Izuku One for All. They decided to return to the Union and inform others of the encounter. Meanwhile, Izuku sat alone at a table, finding the prison food surprisingly decent. Two individuals approached him, and one of them, Stain, expressed his surprise at seeing Izuku, questioning why a true hero was behind bars. Izuku, having previously defeated Stain in battle, had earned his respect. Stain introduced his companion, Kana, who revealed her name but hinted that it was not her real one. Izuku felt an inexplicable connection with Kana, as if they had known each other forever. Kana, sensing Izuku's pain, hugged him, promising that she and Stain would not betray him. Izuku was taken aback by her warmth and kindness, grateful for her support. As they shared their stories, Izuku confided in them about the betrayal he had faced, including the heartbreak of being disbelieved by his own children. Kana, moved by his story, embraced him again, solidifying their bond. They agreed to support one another, forming a new family. 2 months passed, and Izuku and Kana had developed feelings for each other, though neither had confessed yet. Izuku considered Stain a father figure, while Kana began to regain memories of her past life, her hair gradually turning blonde and her powers returning. Izuku pondered how he would confess his feelings to Kana, determined to express himself the following day. However, an unexpected event interrupted his thoughts, leaving him uncertain of what was to come. Izuku emerged from the vents, inhaling a strange substance that caused him to lose consciousness. The Hero Commission arrived shortly after, taking him to a lab beneath Union Prison. The Madam President instructed her team to prepare everything, emphasizing the need to find a way to remove One for All from Izuku. She believed it should not fall into the hands of a villain, but rather be given to All Might's daughter. As the scientists began their experiments on Izuku, he found himself in his mindscape, where two figures appeared before him, smiling encouragingly. They urged him to take their hands and remember who he truly was, declaring that he was the Shadow Monarch, the Soul King, and that they were one. Izuku took their hands, merging with them. Outside his mindscape, the scientists observed the tube containing Izuku glowing intensely, causing his appearance to shift dramatically. When Izuku opened his eyes, they glowed with newfound power, and the machines holding him began to break apart. The glass shattered as he stepped out, surrounded by a red and purple aura. He glared at the scientists and the Madam President, who looked on in fear. Izuku had regained his past lives' memories as Sung Jinwoo and Ichigo, fully embracing his identity as the Shadow Monarch. He confronted the Madam President, expressing disbelief that they thought they could contain him. She stammered in shock, struggling to comprehend his transformation. Izuku simply stated that he was built differently. Meanwhile, Kana stood before a door enveloped in a shimmering light, which was encased in ice. Curious, she opened the door, feeling a cool breeze. Inside, she saw Cha-Haen and Rukia, who smiled at her and encouraged her to take their hands and remember who she was. Kana joined them, merging with their essence and transforming into the Mona of light and goddess of ice. As her appearance changed, she felt a rush of memories returning. Realizing Izuku had regained his powers as well, Kana set off to find him. Back in the lab, Izuku released his aura, his eyes glowing brighter than ever. He declared it was time for the Madam President to face the consequences of her actions. In a flash, he moved, and the scientists were incapacitated, leaving him standing amidst the chaos. He glared at the Madam President, who was paralyzed with fear, and declared his intent. Kana arrived at the lab, witnessing the aftermath of Izuku's power. She saw him standing among the fallen scientists and smiled warmly at him. Izuku acknowledged her presence, pleased that she had regained her memories. He snapped his fingers, and clothes materialized on his body, prompting a loving embrace from Kana. They shared a heartfelt moment, expressing their love for one another. After a tender kiss, Izuku suggested they find Stain and escape. Kana noted how Izuku viewed Stain as a father figure, and he confirmed that Stain had treated him like a son during their time together. Izuku contemplated giving Stain a power to help him protect himself, and Kana agreed it was a good idea. With a shared sense of excitement, they prepared to find Stain and create some chaos together, both eager for the adventure ahead. As they exited the underground tunnel leading to the lab, Izuku and Kana were determined to rescue Stain. Upon reaching his cell, they were shocked to find him gravely injured, a sword embedded in his chest. Izuku rushed to his side, lifting him to his knees, while Kana held his hand, both filled with concern for their ally. "Happened. Don't you dare close. Stay with me." Stain's laughter echoed softly as he acknowledged his fate, realizing his time was coming to an end. Izuku, filled with desperation, insisted that he could heal him. Kana echoed his sentiment, urging Stain not to give up. Stain, however, requested to be allowed to depart in peace, expressing his wish not to die alone. Izuku's heart ached as he revealed that he saw Stain as a father figure. He felt betrayed and could not bear to lose him as well. Stain chuckled weakly, coughing slightly, yet managed a smile as he reciprocated Izuku's feelings, admitting that Izuku was like a son to him. He made Izuku promise to ensure that those he deemed false would pay for their actions and to live his life fully. Turning to Kana, Stain asked her to look after Izuku. Kana assured him that she would. Stain, with a final smile, told Izuku that he would always be watching over him. As Stain's hand fell lifelessly, Izuku was left in silence, grief washing over him. He reached out to touch Stain's hand, experiencing a flood of memories, including the moment Stain was betrayed by the warden, who had been paid by All Might to eliminate him due to his closeness to Izuku. Rising to his feet, Izuku's aura darkened as he declared his intent to take vengeance on everyone in the prison, especially the warden. Kana noticed the coldness in his eyes and pulled him close, trying to comfort him. Kana understood the pain of losing Stain, who had been like a father to Izuku. She reassured him that she would always be by his side, no matter how many times he fell. She gently touched his cheek, offering warmth and love, promising to help him heal and keep him together. Izuku smiled faintly, grateful for her presence. He then approached Stain's body and noticed a chain, which he took and wore, feeling a connection to his fallen father. As he looked around, he found a letter addressed to him. The letter revealed that Stain had intended to give it to him for his upcoming birthday. It expressed Stain's love for Izuku and urged him to never give up, to show the world who was truly in charge, and to live life to the fullest. Tears welled in Izuku's eyes as he read the heartfelt message. He discovered a sword within a case, its silver gleaming. When he touched it, the sword transformed, releasing a shadowy aura. Izuku vowed to his father that he would not let him down. As Stain's figure turned to golden particles and vanished, Izuku held the sword tightly, his eyes glowing with determination. At Union Academy, a celebration was underway as students believed they had captured the traitor, Izuku. They played loud music, mocking him and labeling him as weak and pathetic. The headmasters reveled in their supposed victory, unaware of the true events unfolding in the prison. As the students continued to speak ill of Izuku, a broadcast interrupted the festivities. Shigaraki appeared on screen, smirking as he addressed the heroes. Aizawa demanded to know his intentions, while Bakugo and Shoto boasted about capturing the traitor. Shigaraki revealed that there had never been a traitor. They had framed Izuku, manipulating the situation to their advantage. Shock spread through the crowd as Shigaraki explained how they had deceived everyone. Toga stepped forward, transforming into Izuku, further proving their deception. Shigaraki taunted the headmasters for their lack of investigation, and the realization of their betrayal began to sink in. Inko fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face as she regretted her actions against her son. The weight of their betrayal hung heavy in the air as others began to cry, reflecting on the pain they had caused Izuku. The truth settled in. They had betrayed the one who had loved them unconditionally. The girls were filled with regret as they reflected on their actions. Eri and Kota expressed their sorrow for having hurt their father. As they began to cry, Aizawa comforted them, while some of the boys looked down in shame. They decided to go to the prison to release Izuku, but little did they know he was already gone. Meanwhile, Izuku sat on a building, reviewing his new stats and abilities while wearing his vigilante suit. He thought to himself that these new abilities could prove helpful. Kana arrived at the building, bringing food for them to share. Izuku smiled at her, grateful for the gesture. Kana mentioned that Shigaraki had revealed Izuku's innocence, prompting a smirk from him as he expressed his desire to see the guilt on their faces. Kana agreed, and then Izuku proposed the idea of creating their own nation. Kana thought it was a good idea, suggesting they could welcome powerful individuals who had been mistreated by society. They discussed names and settled on the City of Dreams, planning to start their endeavor in the morning. After a brief rest, they opened a portal to their world, where shadow dragons flew around. Izuku's soldiers knelt before him and Kana as they entered his castle, which had undergone changes during his absence. Haru approached and knelt, explaining that he had been remaking the castle with the help of the other soldiers to welcome Izuku back. Izuku expressed his gratitude, acknowledging that they were more than just shadows, they were family. Kana also praised the soldiers, and they all felt a sense of pride for their efforts. Izuku and Kana then headed inside the castle to the master bedroom. Izuku expressed his desire to start a family with Kana, who was touched by his words. They shared a tender moment, affirming their love for each other. Later, Izuku found himself in the mindscape of One for All, where he encountered the past users of the quirk. They wanted to discuss the changes they had noticed in him. Izuku, sitting confidently, listened as they expressed their concerns about the darkness creeping into his path. They urged him to reconsider his quest for revenge, emphasizing that he was a hero and should not resort to killing. Izuku, feeling defensive, acknowledged that his shadow energy was growing stronger but dismissed their warnings. The tension escalated as he released his bloodlust, causing the mindscape to tremble. He expressed his determination to take vengeance on those who had betrayed him, including All Might, who had harmed his father figure. Despite their pleas for him to show mercy, Izuku remained resolute in his decision to eliminate those he felt had wronged him, even questioning whether he would spare Eri and Kota. As the confrontation intensified, Izuku's anger and resolve became palpable, leaving the past users of One for All to grapple with the consequences of his choices. Izuku had made a significant change. He had altered his DNA, distancing himself from the Yagi and Shimura families. As he dropped Nana to the ground, small tears formed in her eyes. He expressed that while he didn't hate Eri and Kota, he felt disappointed in them. He reassured Nana that he wasn't heartless enough to harm the children. Nana, concerned, asked what he planned to do. Izuku looked down at her, his eyes glowing red, and cryptically stated that it was for him to know and for her to find out. He felt it was time to send them all to rest. Nana, confused, questioned his intentions. Izuku used his monarch authority to hold everyone in place, declaring that he would send them to peace. As he extended his glowing red hand, he bid them goodbye, hoping they would find tranquility. As their bodies began to fade, they looked at Izuku, realizing they were no longer in control of One for All. Nana pleaded with him to reconsider, reminding him they were his family. Izuku coldly replied that he didn't care, he would not stop until all his enemies were defeated. He was determined to make them suffer, even if it was the last thing he did. The users of One for All vanished completely, their souls sent to rest. Izuku then faced Zangetsu and Yawatch, who appeared before him. Zangetsu questioned whether that was a wise decision. Izuku confidently stated that they deserved peace after being trapped in the quirk for so long. Yawatch agreed, and Izuku reiterated his resolve for revenge, no matter the cost. They nodded in understanding as Izuku trained with them, severing the connection to All Might, rendering him unable to use the quirk anymore. He bid farewell to Zangetsu and Yawatch, who encouraged him to handle anyone who dared to challenge him. Izuku smirked, assuring them he would. As he awoke, he found himself resting on Kaina's chest, her loving smile greeting him. He affectionately called her his beautiful ice goddess. After sitting up, they shared a kiss, and Izuku suggested making breakfast before searching for a place to establish their nation. Kaina agreed, expressing her belief that she was pure Jinin tea, which filled Izuku with joy. They shared a playful moment before heading to the bathroom Burr had created in the castle, taking a shower together. Once dressed, Izuku prepared breakfast, and afterward, they set out to find land for their nation. Upon arriving at an empty plot, Izuku smiled, envisioning their future there. Kaina agreed it was a good choice and suggested they rescue some quirkless individuals afterward. Izuku summoned his shadows, providing them with a list of what he needed. They nodded and began their tasks. Izuku and Kaina then vanished, appearing in the city, ready to get to work. Years later, Izuku's shadows had completed the construction of the City of Dreams, where he had rescued numerous quirkless and powerless individuals. Kaina had given birth to their children, Shin and Evangel. The quirkless people revered Izuku, seeing him as their protector against any threats. Izuku also defended Earth from outer gods, tackling any dangers posed by the intruding gates. He had grown stronger, gaining new abilities and training Shin, who proved to be a prodigy. Evangel learned magic and combat skills from him, bringing her joy. Meanwhile, Union had changed drastically. The girls, along with Eri and Kota, were despondent, searching for Izuku without success. The quirkless individuals had vanished without a trace, raising concerns among the pro-heroes and headmasters at Union Academy. Nizu opened the meeting, addressing the troubling disappearance of the quirkless people. Surzex emphasized the seriousness of the situation, noting that only those with quirks remained in the city. Ironwood confirmed that the quirkless had all disappeared. Ashborne speculated that someone might be kidnapping them. Mirko agreed, expressing concern over the unknown perpetrator. Aizawa noted that Endeavor had also gone missing, and Snipe mentioned the vigilante known as Shadow, who was eliminating more individuals. Ryuko suggested that Shadow could be involved in the kidnappings, and Hawks acknowledged the possibility, recalling their last encounter with him. The meeting continued, filled with uncertainty about the fate of the quirkless and the looming threat of Shadow. Flashback began with Izuku observing the heroes as he had just saved a quirkless person. He noted the unexpected visit from the heroes and questioned what brought them to him. Aizawa urged him to come quietly, stating that he was wanted for having harmed multiple villains and heroes. Izuku feigned surprise at his notoriety, while Hawks warned him to comply or they would have to take him by force. Izuku responded with a taunt, suggesting that Hawks should understand his place. The heroes felt a chill run down their spines as Mirko accused Izuku of killing innocent people, insisting that they should face justice instead of death. Izuku retorted that the heroes had failed to keep villains imprisoned, allowing them to escape and wreak havoc. He expressed his disdain for the heroes, calling them fake and highlighting their neglect of the quirkless, who had suffered under a flawed society. He declared that he would cleanse the world of its ills and build a new society from the ashes. Just then, All Might arrived, commanding Izuku to stay down, asserting that he was no match for them. Izuku dismissed him, claiming he could defeat All Might even with his hands tied. All Might demanded justice, but Izuku pointed out the hypocrisy of a hero who had ordered the execution of hero killer Stain. Aizawa questioned All Might about Izuku's knowledge, and Izuku revealed that he was aware of All Might's quirk, One for All, and the serum that temporarily restored it. With a surge of bloodlust, Izuku immobilized the heroes with fear. He challenged them to confront him, swiftly appearing in front of All Might and Inko, knocking them both out with a powerful slam. He looked down at All Might, contemplating how he would make him suffer later. As he dodged a kick from Mirko, he appeared behind her, delivering a blow that sent her flying. When hawks attacked with feathers, Izuku evaded them and ignited his hands in black flames, burning Hawk's wings, causing him to scream in pain. He smirked beneath his mask as Ryuko approached, ready to strike with her dragon claws. Izuku dodged her attack with incredible speed and countered with a powerful kick, knocking her back. As Ryuko transformed, Izuku confronted her, delivering a punch that knocked her out of her dragon form. He then faced Aizawa, who attempted to kick him but was easily overpowered. Izuku knocked Aizawa to the ground, leaving him incapacitated, and proceeded to defeat the remaining heroes, who could only watch in despair. Baru emerged, questioning why Izuku had spared the heroes. Izuku replied that he intended to make them suffer slowly. With a final warning to the heroes, he vanished into the shadows as the flashback concluded. The heroes were left to remember their defeat at the hands of Izuku, discussing how to locate the missing individuals. The scene shifted to the City of Dreams, where Izuku was in his forge, crafting a new weapon. He reflected on the years since he created Union City, ensuring it was a peaceful place where everyone thrived. Kana entered with Evangel and Shin. Evangel joyfully greeted her father, and they shared a warm embrace. Izuku affectionately called her his ball of sunshine. After a brief exchange with Shin, who greeted him enthusiastically, Izuku ruffled his hair affectionately. Kana smiled lovingly at Izuku, and after a tender moment with Evangel, Shin playfully shielded her eyes, wanting to preserve her innocence. The family shared a light-hearted moment as they enjoyed each other's company. Evangel looked up at her father, excitedly asking if he was making something special with her mother. Shin, her overprotective brother, smiled at the interaction. Kana then inquired about what Izuku was working on. Izuku explained that he was crafting weapons for the guards and townsfolk to help them protect themselves. He had also taught them how to fight and harness spirit energy and mana, helping them unlock their mana cores to use magic. Kana asked if he was finished, and Izuku confirmed that he was. He then removed his shirt, causing Kana to blush as she admired him. He requested Evangel to pass him a towel, which she eagerly did, and he ruffled her hair affectionately. After wiping his sweat, he enjoyed a cold drink, relishing the refreshing taste after a long day of work. Evangel suggested a family day, and Shin agreed, excitedly proposing they spend time together. Izuku happily accepted and went to take a shower and change. Once ready, he called for everyone to join him, and they headed outside. As they walked through the city, people greeted them warmly, praising Izuku for the positive changes he had brought. Kana remarked on how he had transformed their lives, and Izuku expressed his happiness at seeing his people thrive. Evangel chimed in, asking for ice cream, and Izuku agreed, leading the family to enjoy a treat together. Afterward, they visited the mall in Dream City, where they bought cute clothes for Evangel and enjoyed a meal. They then went to the carnival, where Evangel delighted in the rides, bringing joy to Izuku as he watched her happiness. They played laser tag as a family, creating wonderful memories, and took pictures to capture their joy. Later, they found themselves in a beautiful field, where Izuku asked Evangel if she was enjoying the day. She responded with enthusiasm, declaring it the best day of her life. Izuku smiled warmly at his daughter, feeling grateful for their time together. Meanwhile, in a different part of town, Kota and Eri felt a pang of sadness, wondering if they had been replaced. Kana brought out some cake, and Evangel eagerly dug in, making a delightful mess. Izuku and Shin chuckled at her cuteness, both silently vowing to protect her innocence and happiness. They shared a knowing glance, agreeing that anyone who made her sad would face their wrath. Kana noticed their exchange and giggled, suspecting they were discussing Evangel's future. As the day turned to night, Shin and Evangel fell asleep in Izuku and Kana's laps. The couple smiled at their children, covering them with a blanket. They admired the beautiful night sky, with Kana leaning her head on Izuku's shoulder. He reflected on how grateful he was for the family he had always wanted, vowing to protect their smiles at all costs. The scene shifted to Izuku's house, where he woke up to find Kana peacefully sleeping on his chest. He smiled and kissed her forehead, causing her to wake. They exchanged morning greetings and decided to check on their children. As they approached the kids' room, they encountered their butler, Wiz, who greeted them and informed them that the kids were brushing their teeth. After sending Wiz to prepare breakfast, Izuku and Kana entered the children's room. They found Shin reading a book, and he greeted them cheerfully. Izuku asked about Evangel, and Shin mentioned she was still in the bathroom. Kana went to check on her while Izuku chatted with Shin about the martial arts book he was reading. Izuku offered to train him later, but they both recalled the last time they had trained too hard and had been punished by Kana, sending chills down their spines. Izuku thought about how, despite being the strongest man in the universe, he couldn't handle Kana when she was angry. Both Shin and Evangel were homeschooled by Igris, who was known for his intelligence. Sometimes, they played with other children in the city, and Evangel had made many friends due to her adorable nature. Kana returned with Evangel, who brightened the room with her presence, calling out to her father with joy. Izuku ran and hugged his daughter, smiling lovingly at her. He picked her up and kissed her cheeks, making her giggle adorably. Both Shin and Kana held their hearts, overwhelmed by her cuteness. They all thought to themselves how she was simply too cute, almost making them faint. Some of Izuku's soldiers had indeed passed out due to Evangel's charm. Baru commented on how the princess was irresistibly cute, while Abyss noted that her cuteness was making the soldiers lose consciousness. Igris remarked that with such a smile, she could turn even the most evil person good. Godzilla, who served as Evangel's bodyguard, remained vigilant in her shadow, determined to protect her. Meanwhile, Izuku was doing his best not to faint from the overwhelming cuteness of his daughter. Shin noticed his father's struggle and thought about how hard Izuku was trying to stay composed. Izuku then told Evangel that she could go downstairs with her brother to the table while he and Kana freshened up. Evangel happily agreed, and Izuku set her down as Shin called for her to head downstairs. Evangel took her brother's hand, smiling brightly as they made their way down. Izuku and Kana went to the gym for their workout, and after finishing, they took a shower together. Once they were ready, they dressed in their stylish outfits and headed downstairs, where breakfast awaited them. Kana remarked that breakfast was ready, and Izuku praised Wiz for doing an amazing job. Wiz expressed his happiness at being able to please them. Evangel excitedly invited Wiz to join them for breakfast, and both she and Shin considered him family, as he had been Izuku's head butler for a long time. They enjoyed breakfast together, filled with laughter and joy. Afterward, the maids came to clean up. As Izuku prepared to head to his castle, he sensed something unusual and looked in the direction of a nearby gate. Kana confirmed that she felt a strong magical energy, likely indicating an S-rank gate. Izuku decided to handle the situation, assuring Kana that he wouldn't take long. Before leaving, he told the kids he had to take care of something. Evangel asked him to bring back ice cream, but Kana reminded her that she had already had some the day before. Evangel pleaded with her parents, giving them puppy eyes that they couldn't resist. Kana eventually relented, saying that when Evangel made that face, she couldn't say no. Izuku agreed to bring the ice cream, while Kana insisted on making it at home instead. Shin asked if he could accompany Izuku, but Kana told him it was too dangerous and that he could go when he was older. Izuku kissed his wife and children, smiling at them before using his flash step to disappear. He appeared atop a mountain, gazing at the gate. He suspected it was the work of the Iterim, as they were the only ones capable of opening such a large gate. He realized that the outer gods were still trying to invade Earth and that he needed to show them that this was his home. Standing confidently, Izuku noticed tanks from Union City nearby. Using his Monarch authority, he crushed the tanks effortlessly. Spotting some heroes in the area, he opened a portal beneath them, causing them to fall inside. With a smirk, he declared that the stage had been set. At Union Academy, the loss of signal from their tanks and heroes caused concern. Power Loader reported to Nizu that they had lost contact with their forces at the gate. Surzex questioned how this was possible, given the strength of the tanks. Ashborne sensed something was amiss, wondering who could possess such power. Nizu shared his worries about the situation. Back with Izuku, he summoned his daggers, which began to fall from the sky. A purple aura surrounded him, and his eyes glowed with power as he called out for his opponents to reveal themselves. The gate started to crack, and multiple titans emerged, exuding a dangerous aura. The titan commander confronted Izuku, questioning how one human could stand against an army of titans. Izuku confidently replied that he would be their opponent, smirking at the titan commander's bravado. He dismissed the titan's confidence, revealing that he was not alone. With a commanding presence, he called forth his shadow army, which emerged in droves. He told the titan commander that he wanted to make this quick, as he had promised his family he wouldn't take long. As the titan army charged at Izuku and his soldiers, he urged his army to go forth. The clash began, and Izuku fought fiercely, dispatching titans with ease. He relished the challenge, feeling invigorated by the battle. When a titan attacked him at high speed, he skillfully used his daggers and monarch authority to defeat it. Izuku, enjoying the thrill of the fight, summoned shadow magic to create dark spears that struck down more titans. He continued to rush into battle, eager for more. Titans surrounded Izuku as he summoned his scythe, a confident grin spreading across his face. He unleashed his technique, Getsuga Tensho, Abyss Barrage, slashing through the titans with incredible speed. He noticed an attack coming from the titan commander and, with a smirk, leaped into the air, enveloping his scythe in shadow and spiritual energy. He landed in front of the titan, delivering a powerful slash. With a confident expression, he unleashed Getsuga Tensho. The attack struck the titan commander, sending him flying. Izuku summoned his weapon, hovering in the air as his hand became covered in shadow energy. He transformed his hand into a massive claw, slamming it down onto the titan commander, crashing him into the ground. As he landed, he observed a smaller version of the titan emerging from the larger body. Realizing the smaller titan was the one controlling the larger form, Izuku smirked. Suddenly, a titan from behind attempted to attack him. Without turning, he pointed his finger, and the titan's body was obliterated, shocking the commander. Izuku taunted the commander, expressing that he would soon join his army. The titan commander, gathering all his magic and strength, launched a massive magical attack at Izuku. With a grin, Izuku summoned both of his Zanpakuto, feeling a rush of excitement. It had been a while since he had used them, and he was ready for a challenge. As the attack approached, he covered his Zanpakuto in energy and unleashed Getsuga Jujisho. The attack hit the Titan commander, disintegrating his body and causing a massive explosion of energy. As the dust settled, Izuku began to walk forward, his shadow bowing before him. He expressed his satisfaction with his soldiers' performance. With a commanding presence, he ordered the fallen titans to arise. Their bodies were enveloped in dark shadows, transforming them into his soldiers. The system confirmed that he had gained over 10,000 elite soldiers, and he was pleased with the growth of his army. Turning his attention back to the Titan commander, who now stood before his army, Izuku noted the change in his appearance and decided to name him Titan. The newly named Titan assured Izuku that he would not disappoint. As Titan returned to the shadows, Izuku smiled and began to walk away. Meanwhile, in a distant union, the headmasters felt the immense energy from Izuku's attack, speculating about its origin. In outer space, a god commanded his army to conquer Izuku's world, instructing them to bring it under their control. The commander of the god's army acknowledged the order, gathering his troops to head to Earth. As they advanced, they learned that someone had defeated the army of titans they had sent. They speculated that something powerful was protecting that world, but they believed it would be easy to conquer since it lacked a protector and the Shadow Monarch was presumed dead. Unbeknownst to them, Izuku had been eliminating their forces over the years. As the army of gods approached the world, Izuku sensed a portal opening and angelic beings emerging. He sighed heavily, assessing the army before him. He resolved not to waste time and intended to make the confrontation swift. The gods observing from afar were intrigued, wondering what force was protecting the world. The army of gods initially thought their conquest would be effortless, but they were mistaken. They soon encountered darkness as Izuku released his aura, enveloping his entire being in shadows. He declared that the outer gods still did not understand that this world was not theirs to conquer. The outer gods, witnessing this, were shocked, realizing that the Shadow Monarch was alive. Izuku commanded his shadows to arise, enveloping the entire army in a vast black domain. The army of gods found themselves disoriented, and Izuku ordered them to devour. Multiple shadow mouths and weapons emerged from the domain, consuming the army and transforming them into Izuku's shadows. His soldiers stood by his side, exuding a powerful presence as they watched the army turn into shadows. Izuku addressed the outer gods, declaring that he would come for them all. To be continued. The shadows had grown stronger. The figures discussed the Shadow Monarch, noting how he was now more powerful than even Ashborne. They expressed concern about approaching him, given their past as enemies and the fact that he had defeated them before. They hoped he would be willing to listen, especially since the rulers had allied with the Iterum, and it seemed he was unaware of this development. They remarked on his new appearance, finding him more striking than before, and speculated about whether they could persuade him to join their side. Meanwhile, Izuku stood in his Soul King form, gazing at the fallen angelic beings. He commanded them to rise, transforming them into his shadows, ready to engage the forces of the outer gods. He took a commanding stance, demonstrating his ability to control the shadows, leaving the outer gods in awe of his unexpected power. Even the mysterious figures observing from the dimensional rift were taken aback, realizing that Izuku had surpassed their expectations. As Izuku faced the Iterum forces, he warned them that they had made a grave mistake by invading his world. Gabriel, the commander of the Iterum forces, acknowledged Izuku's strength, noting that he was destroying their ranks effortlessly. When Gabriel introduced himself and revealed his rank among the apostles, Izuku made it clear that he was aware of the ruler's alliance with the outer gods. Gabriel was shocked that Izuku knew this, but Izuku explained that he had gained knowledge from the memories of the outer gods he had defeated. Izuku declared that while the Iterum had conquered other worlds, they would not succeed in his realm as long as he was present. Gabriel was left speechless by Izuku's confidence. Izuku warned him to relay a message to his gods and the rulers that he would confront them when the time came, pointing his sword at Gabriel, enveloped in a deadly aura. The scene shifted to Izuku, who was intrigued by the presence of goddesses in his city. He inquired about their visit, and the goddesses expressed their admiration for his city, where everyone was treated with love and respect. They explained their background, sharing that they had once been human and had witnessed the suffering of the quirkless. They had earned their titles through hardship and battles. Izuku welcomed them warmly, asking if they wished to become citizens of Dream City. Kana, his companion, supported the idea, believing that their presence would be a positive addition. The goddesses expressed their gratitude, and Izuku encouraged them to share their abilities with him, promising to reveal his own in return. As they exchanged information about their powers, Izuku impressed them with his strength. The goddesses were intrigued by Kana's abilities as well, and they discussed the possibility of sparring together. However, the mood shifted when they showed Izuku a poster that sought someone named Izuku Yagi. Upon seeing it, Izuku's demeanor darkened, and he released a hint of his bloodlust, angered by the audacity of those who sought him after all he had endured. The girls felt the weight of his aura, sensing the intensity of his emotions. They were gazing into the abyss. The girls thought about the darkness of his bloodlust and what he must have endured to acquire such intensity. Kana urged Zuzu to calm down, embracing Izuku, who began to relax as he looked at the girls. He asked where they had found the poster. Ei explained that they had passed through Union City and noticed the posters on the wall. Ye mentioned Mr. Sung Kurosaki, to which Izuku replied that they could simply call him Izuku, no need for formalities. Curious, Ye asked why he seemed angry upon seeing the poster. Izuku revealed that he had a troubled past with Union City and harbored a desire for revenge against those responsible for his pain. Ei pressed for details, wanting to understand what had happened to him. As Izuku recounted his past, the girls listened in shock, feeling anger rise within them at the injustices he had faced. Ye expressed her disdain for those who had wronged him, while Ei offered to join him in seeking retribution. Mavuka echoed her sentiment, wanting to ensure they suffered for their actions. Izuku assured them that he would make sure they faced consequences, vowing to make them suffer. A smirk crossed his face, and the girls felt a mix of admiration and concern at his cold demeanor. He then suggested they meet his children and explore the city, promising to show them its beautiful sights. Arlecchino inquired about their accommodations, and Izuku welcomed them to stay at his house, assuring them it would not be a problem. The girls exchanged glances and agreed, grateful for his hospitality. As they settled in Dream City, the girls found happiness in the peaceful environment. Izuku had even built a shrine for Yae Miko, fulfilling her request. They grew fond of him, appreciating his kindness, care, and dedication as a father. The girls formed strong bonds with his children, becoming protective of Evangel and Shin. Mavuka often sparred with Kana, while Izuku trained the girls, teaching them his abilities, Kido, and Heido spells, helping them grow stronger. Months passed, and one day, Izuku was working out without his shirt, sweat glistening on his body. Bru emerged from Izuku's shadow in a smaller form, questioning why he chose to exercise instead of using his spiritual manifestation ability. Izuku explained that he preferred the traditional workout, having achieved a perfect physique through hard work. He believed it was essential to build physical strength without relying on his powers. Meanwhile, the girls were with the children, who were peacefully sleeping on their laps. Kana decided to speak up, wanting to address something important. The girls listened intently as Kana pointed out that they had all developed feelings for Izuku. The girls blushed at the realization, and Kana smirked, enjoying their reactions. They acknowledged his kindness, caring nature, and strength, recognizing him as an incredible father and leader. They admired his looks, with Yae expressing disbelief that anyone would cheat on such a wonderful man. Kana declared herself the alpha of the harem but reassured them that if Izuku accepted their feelings, he would love them all equally. She encouraged them to find him and express their emotions. The girls nodded, determined to seek him out. After putting the children to bed, they searched the house but couldn't find him. Kana speculated that he might be in the gym training. They made their way to the gym and entered to find Izuku without a shirt, causing them to blush intensely. Kana remarked that she had seen his physique countless times but could never get used to it. Izuku greeted them, curious about what they needed. The girls took a deep breath and shouted their affection for Izuku, expressing their love and admiration for him. Izuku's eyes widened in surprise at their heartfelt declaration. Arlecchino sang out that they loved him, while Yae praised him for being an amazing person who cared for others and was always willing to protect his family. Yae acknowledged his strength, kindness, and gentle nature. Mavuka reminded him that, despite the pain from his past, they were different and would never betray his trust. She emphasized that they would always love him, no matter what. Izuku reflected on their words, realizing that they truly cared for him. Zangetsu and Yawatch communicated with him through telepathy, encouraging him to open his heart to the girls, assuring him that they were not like those from his past. Izuku considered their advice, recognizing the sincerity in their eyes. He turned to Kana, asking if she minded sharing him with the others. Kana, embracing her role as the leader of the group, assured him that she was fine with it. With a warm smile, Izuku accepted their confessions. The girls kissed him, and he reciprocated, promising to ensure their happiness. They all declared their love for him in return. Evangel and Shin then arrived, greeting everyone. Kana introduced them as their new mothers, and Evangel joyfully hugged the girls, while Shin followed suit. Izuku watched the scene with a warm smile, vowing to protect his family and ensure they would never be sad again. The next day, Izuku wandered the city, feeling bored. He had completed all his paperwork and had nothing to do at home since the girls took the kids shopping. Suddenly, Shin appeared before him, explaining that he had escaped from their mothers, who were busy buying clothes. Izuku praised his son for his cleverness and suggested they spend the day together at the arcade. As they prepared to leave, both father and son sensed a dark and ominous aura nearby. Their instincts kicked in, and they quickly moved toward the source of the energy. Upon arrival, they noticed the sky was red, indicating something unusual. Shin pointed out that it looked like a gate, and Izuku confirmed that it belonged to Antares, the monarch of destruction, someone he had faced in a past life. Izuku recalled that Antares was the only one who could rival his power when he fully unlocked his abilities. Unbeknownst to him, the monarchs had changed, and he was about to face a shocking revelation. He speculated that if Antares was here, it was likely that the other monarchs were as well. Izuku resolved that if they were not on his side, he would deal with them as he had before. Shin, realizing the potential danger, felt uncertain about being there, especially since they would likely face consequences when they returned home. Izuku acknowledged his son's intelligence, noting that he was wise beyond his years. As he summoned his shadow soldiers, they stood ready behind him and Shin, both prepared for whatever emerged from the gate. With a determined look, Izuku focused on the gate, his aura glowing with power as he anticipated the challenge ahead. He was ready to confront whatever awaited them beyond the threshold. To be continued. Narrator perspective. The scene picks up where it left off, with Izuku and his army, along with his son, waiting for the figure behind the gate to emerge. Izuku thought to himself, wondering if the monarchs would be on his side. Suddenly, the gate opened, and his army prepared for what was to come. Shin summoned the red daggers his father had given him, while Izuku summoned both his long and short Zangetsu blades. As the gate opened, beautiful figures emerged, exuding a dangerous and powerful aura. One of them remarked on the differences of Earth compared to the Shadow Monarch's old world, while another sensed the abundant mana present. They noted that it was no surprise the Iterim wanted this world for themselves. Then, they spotted Izuku, holding his Zangetsu, looking quite confused alongside his army and son. Izuku questioned their identity, wondering if they were Antares. One of the figures playfully acknowledged his expectation, revealing herself as a monarch. Izuku was taken aback, struggling to believe that these stunning women were the monarchs he had known. He recalled their previous appearances, which were far from this beauty, causing him to blush slightly. Shin, observing the scene, noted that his father had mentioned the monarchs were mostly male, save for one. Izuku expressed his shock at their transformation, admitting that he would have admired one of them if she weren't evil. The others grew jealous at this comment. Izuku was left speechless by their beauty, unable to find words to express his astonishment. As they landed, Izuku sheathed his Zangetsu and regarded them curiously. He asked what he should call them now that they had changed. One by one, they introduced themselves. Mikima, the Monarch of Destruction and Queen of Dragons. Tesha, the Monarch of Frost and Queen of Snowfolk. Zani, the Monarch of White Flames and Queen of Demons. Ria, the Monarch of Fangs and Queen of Beasts. Tia, the Monarch of Transfiguration and Queen of Demonic Species. Camiella, the Monarch of Iron Body and Queen of Monstrous Humanoids. And Quiracia, the Monarch of Insects and Queen of Insects. Izuku marveled at their beauty, and Shin sighed, contemplating that they might become his new mothers. Mikima noticed Shin and inquired about him. Izuku introduced his son, who greeted the monarchs. They were surprised to learn he had a son, and a hint of jealousy flickered among them. Izuku addressed the monarchs, expressing his disbelief that they were not there to destroy humanity again. Mikima reassured him that they had come to ally with him against the Iterim and rulers. Izuku questioned how they had returned, recalling that he had defeated them. Camiella explained that, like him, they had reincarnated. Izuku pondered their trustworthiness, and the girls felt a chill as Mikima smirked, impressed by his strength. She acknowledged his growth, and the others sensed the depth of his power. Ria remarked on the darkness within him, and Izuku smiled, causing the monarchs to blush. He affirmed that he sensed no deceit in their words and would trust them. Tia thanked him, mentioning they had observed his battles against the Iterim forces. Izuku acknowledged their watchful eyes, feeling their presence during his fights. Ria commended his strength, noting how much darker his aura had become. Baru approached Izuku, questioning the wisdom of trusting the monarchs. Izuku reassured him, confident that they understood the consequences of betrayal. The girls felt a shiver at his words, but Zani promised they would not betray him, united in their mission to stop the Iterim. Izuku commanded his soldiers to return to the shadows, smiling at the girls, which made them blush. He informed them they would be staying in Dream City with him and his other companions. Tia was surprised to learn about his multiple wives and daughter, Evangel. The girls exchanged glances, realizing they might have a chance. As they prepared to leave, Shin reminded Izuku of the situation waiting for them at home. Izuku chuckled, accepting his fate as he led the way, instructing the girls to follow him and Shin. Izuku observed the stunned faces around him, a smirk playing on his lips as he noted their disbelief. He had just defeated the strongest beast in existence with a single strike. He leaped down from his perch, where Cassiel had vanished back into the shadows, landing on a post with an air of confidence, his Kamish shadow dagger in hand. Surzex was speechless, grappling with the reality that Izuku had cut the most formidable creature in the supernatural realm in half. Ashborne pondered the identity of this boy, while Kokabeel questioned how someone could defeat a beast that had once posed a challenge to God and the first Lucifer. All for One and Muzan shared a moment of realization, recognizing that Izuku's attack was anything but ordinary. Inko's voice trembled as she asked who he was, but Izuku dismissed her with a wave, asserting that she didn't need to know. His gaze shifted to Eri and Kota, who had grown taller and more mature in his absence. He felt a mix of pride and nostalgia, reflecting on how well they had fared without him. Bakugo's voice broke through the tension as he demanded to know Izuku's identity. Izuku sighed, noting that Bakugo hadn't changed at all. As rain began to fall, a sense of foreboding filled the air. All for One and Muzan exchanged glances, both feeling a familiar, dark aura emanating from Izuku. They recalled a time during the USJ attack when they had witnessed Izuku sitting among defeated foes, a testament to his overwhelming power. In that moment, Izuku had single-handedly taken down 1,000 villains, demonstrating his unmatched skill and strength. He had earned the respect and fear of the League of Villains and the League of Apocalypse. The memory of that day lingered in the minds of All for One and Muzan, who now laughed in recognition of Izuku's presence. As Izuku looked down at them, his eyes glowed with a fierce intensity. He acknowledged their realization, noting that he had instilled fear in them before. The girls around him began to tear up, calling out his name with a mix of admiration and concern. Izuku, however, silenced them with a harsh command, warning them not to speak his name so lightly. Bakugo, still brimming with anger, confronted Izuku, but the latter merely smirked, unleashing an aura of intimidation that forced everyone to their knees. Kendo and Yui urged him to stop, expressing their concern for his behavior. Izuku dismissed their pleas, his words cutting deep and causing tears to flow from Jairu and Mina. As his former friends rushed toward him, Izuku's glare intensified, and they found themselves overwhelmed by an invisible pressure. He taunted them, asserting his superiority and warning them of the consequences of their actions. With a swift motion, he grabbed Bakugo's hands, reminding him of the pain he had inflicted on others. In a shocking display of power, Izuku disarmed Bakugo, leaving him in agony. He then turned his attention to Issei, mocking him before inflicting pain that left Issei in tears. Izuku continued his ruthless path, targeting Izuka and Shoto, leaving devastation in his wake. The onlookers could only watch in horror as Izuku unleashed his fury, a force of nature that left no room for doubt about his strength and resolve. Ruthless Izuku paused, surveying the scene before him. He felt a sense of satisfaction as he addressed those around him, hinting at the chaos to come. He grinned menacingly, a chilling smile that suggested dark intentions. He relished the thought of what awaited those who had betrayed him, believing that only he could deliver the justice they deserved. Inko, filled with disbelief and anguish, confronted him, questioning how he could turn against his friends and family. Izuku's response was filled with anger as he expressed his feelings of betrayal. He had risked his life for them, only to be let down by their misplaced trust in a mere image over their own son. He continued, his voice rising with intensity, expressing the depth of his hurt. He had done everything to bring them happiness, yet they had turned their backs on him. He declared that he would not rest until he confronted those who had wronged him, vowing to seek revenge against his enemies. His resolve was unwavering. He would not stop until he had achieved his goal, even if it meant bringing destruction to the city. He promised that they would all suffer for their betrayal, his rage fueling his determination. As he glanced at Eri and Kota, he noticed their fear. He acknowledged Eri's growth, expressing a bittersweet relief that she was safe, but reminded her that she had lost the right to call him Papa long ago. He turned to Kota, sharing a similar sentiment, revealing the pain that lingered within him. Eri's eyes widened as tears began to form, and she started to cry. Aizawa noticed her distress and moved to comfort her, casting a concerned glance at Izuku. Kota looked down at the ground, feeling sad. Aizawa expressed his frustration, emphasizing that Eri was just a child. Izuku, however, dismissed Aizawa's concern, suggesting he should mind his own business. He made a pointed remark about Aizawa's wife, indicating he was not in the mood for interference. Izuku then turned his attention to the army before him, smirking as he approached. He noted the intense aura surrounding the forces, acknowledging the updates they had received. Muzan confirmed that they had anticipated Izuku's return and had strengthened their numbers accordingly. Izuku remarked on Muzan's strategic thinking, while Kokabeel pointed out that Izuku was alone, suggesting that he could not win against an army of 100. Izuku countered that he was never truly alone. As he spoke, shadows began to extend from him, signaling a shift in the atmosphere. He declared that the matchup was unfavorable for his opponents, and soon his entire army emerged. The strongest soldiers stood behind him, each radiating a dark and sinister aura. Izuku's confidence was palpable as he stated that the situation was dire for them. Everyone's eyes widened in shock at the sight of Izuku's army, unable to comprehend the magnitude of what they were witnessing. Muzan stammered, questioning what these entities were, feeling the overwhelming and dangerous aura they emitted. Kokabeel felt as if he were staring into an abyss of limitless power, while Doflamingo commented on the chilling bloodlust emanating from the army. All for one observed quietly, noting that this was no ordinary quirk. Something like a quirk can't be that powerful, Shigaraki thought as he stared into the abyss. The members of the Union stood speechless at what they had just witnessed. Nizu expressed his confusion, wondering what those things were. Surzex admitted he didn't know either, but sensed a significant amount of killing intent emanating from them. Ashborne pondered what Izuku had been doing to become this strong, while Ironwood noted that it wasn't just one for all, it was too dark. Izumi felt the rage in Izuku's eyes. He wanted them dead, and she could see it clearly. Ibra agreed, stating that his eyes bore nothing but hatred for them. The girls teared up, realizing the truth of Izuku's fury. Meanwhile, Izuku surveyed his army, awaiting his orders. Uru, Igris, and Bellion looked to him for direction. Izuku commanded them to eliminate all the nomus, demons, fallen angels, and stray devils, insisting that he didn't care how they did it just to kill them all. Bellion rallied the troops, urging them to ensure none of the beasts or pathetic insects survived. The Shadow Army roared in response and charged at their enemies, clashing fiercely. Izuku summoned his Snow Flower, a dark aura surrounding him as he prepared for battle. He declared it was time to hunt, disappearing into the fray as he began to take down each foe that crossed his path. Moving with incredible speed, Izuku sliced through hordes of monsters, his bloodlust palpable. He continued to advance, his rage deepening as he unleashed his wrath upon them. The Union watched in horror as Ashborne remarked that this wasn't a fight, it was a bloodbath. Inko was horrified to see him massacring all of them, while All Might noted that he resembled a hunter pursuing his prey. Rias lamented that Izuku had never been this cold, and Ibra remarked on his ruthlessness. Mio pointed out that he was no longer the Izuku they knew. Nijire and Toru reflected on how they had turned him into a cold-blooded warrior who would not stop until he achieved his revenge. The headmasters realized with dread that they had created a monster driven by vengeance against them. The League watched in disbelief, unable to comprehend the transformation they were witnessing. All for one acknowledged that Izuku had always been a monster, but now he had become something even worse. Muzan remarked that the term monster no longer sufficed to describe him. Doflamingo noted that he was an avenger, a man who would not rest until he had his revenge, while Kokabeel recognized that Izuku's aura signified he had become death itself. As Izuku continued to eliminate any creature that dared to approach him, he noted that they were stronger than the nomus he had faced before, but he didn't care. His system notified him that he was growing stronger with each passing moment. He saw this as an opportunity to become even more powerful. Determined, he vowed to take back everything that had been done to him in blood. With his bloodlust intensifying, he declared that none would survive, and all would perish. As more monsters approached, he vanished and reappeared behind them, swiftly dispatching them. Switching to his daggers, he executed a rapid attack, showcasing his skills. The League, now fearful, faced him. All for one begrudgingly admitted that he hadn't expected Izuku to grow this strong, while Muzan acknowledged the shocking power he had attained, though he insisted that Izuku would not win this battle. Izuku responded with confidence, stating that he was merely holding back and that this was not even a warm-up for them. He dismissed their army as pathetic and filled with weaklings, which angered the League. Shigaraki noticed that Izuku's shadows were regenerating at an incredible rate. He questioned how long it would last, to which Izuku confidently replied that as long as he had mana, his army would continue to regenerate. Their eyes widened in shock as Izuku's own eyes glowed with intense power and dominance. He proclaimed himself the god of death, the lord of shadows, and the Soul King. Pointing his hand forward, he declared his iconic line, commanding the monsters he had slain to rise again. The League was stunned, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Even the Union was left in disbelief, questioning how Izuku had become this strong. Izuku explained that the monsters he had defeated would become his shadows, and soon, the remaining ones would join them. He pointed his dagger at the League, surrounded by an aura of death, and ominously stated that ultimately, they would meet the same fate. To be continued. Zangetsu knew they were doomed. Nothing could stop the king when he was enraged. Yawatch compared him to a hunter stalking his prey. As the battle continued, the League felt a chill run down their spines when Izuku spoke. Every instinct in their bodies urged them to flee or face dire consequences. They all understood that a single misstep could lead to their demise, buried 6 feet under. Izuku's aura intensified with each passing moment, fueled by his anger. All for one acknowledged their precarious situation, feeling the weight of their predicament. Muzan expressed his concern, recognizing the threat that Izuku posed. Doflamingo reluctantly admitted that despite his love for fighting, he had no desire to confront such a formidable opponent. He considered Izuku a monster that needed to be controlled. Shigaraki scoffed at the idea of taming such a creature, while Dabi warned that Izuku was relentless, driven by a thirst for vengeance that would not cease until all his enemies were defeated. Kokabeel remained silent, absorbing the tension in the air. It didn't matter how fierce the battle was, they had to ensure their survival. One wrong move could lead to their downfall. Izuku glanced to the side, noticing the forces rushing toward him. A smirk spread across his face as he pointed his hand at them, feeling exhilarated. More experience was just waiting to be collected. Izuku rushed toward the horde, a dark and ominous aura enveloping him. He leaped into the air, covering his sword in shadow and spiritual energy. With a powerful move, he unleashed a devastating attack that obliterated the enemies around him, turning them to dust. As he surveyed the fallen foes, he decided to summon them as his shadows, his eyes glowing with a purple light. He commanded them to rise, and they obeyed, becoming his soldiers. He ordered them to eliminate the remaining enemies. Izuku then turned his cold, piercing gaze toward the League, a dangerous glint in his eyes that revealed his intent. He was eager for the fight to continue. None of them would leave this place alive. They would all be forgotten. Kokabeel summoned a 3-headed dog from the underworld, but Izuku merely scoffed at the display. He taunted the creature, challenging it to fight its own battles instead of relying on its master. The dog growled in response, clearly offended. Izuku continued to provoke it, recalling a similar creature from his past. The tension escalated as Cerberus charged at Izuku, swinging its massive claws. Izuku deftly dodged the attack, relishing the challenge. He declared that he had other foes to deal with and needed the dog out of the way. In a flash, he appeared before Cerberus, wielding his sword with deadly intent. With a swift strike, he unleashed another powerful attack, resulting in a massive explosion that obscured the battlefield in smoke. When the smoke cleared, Izuku stood tall, his sword stained with the remnants of the battle. The League members felt a chill run down their spines at the sight of him. He began to walk toward them, each step shaking the ground beneath him as his aura darkened further. He was ready for a fight, eager to engage in hand-to-hand combat. The League prepared themselves, mirroring his stance. Izuku laughed, reveling in the thrill of the impending battle. All for One, confused by Izuku's laughter, questioned his sanity. Izuku responded that laughter was part of the chaos of battle. In an instant he vanished, reappearing in front of Shigaraki. With a powerful punch, he struck Shigaraki in the stomach, causing him to double over. Izuku slammed him to the ground, leaving the League stunned by his speed. All for One attempted to retaliate, but Izuku evaded the attack effortlessly, countering with a kick that sent All for One flying. Dabi, determined to prove himself, unleashed a torrent of blue flames at Izuku. However, Izuku walked through the flames unscathed, mocking Dabi's efforts. He delivered a crushing blow to Dabi's stomach, causing him to cough up blood. With a swift motion, Izuku slammed Dabi's head into the ground, leaving the League in shock. Kokobile, desperate to regain control, attacked Izuku with a light spear. Izuku caught the spear and shattered it with ease, asserting that they were fighting barehanded. He delivered a powerful punch that sent Kokobile reeling, dragging him along the wall in a brutal display of strength. Izuku reveled in Kokobile's pain, taunting him as he continued his assault. As the battle raged on, Izuku sensed another presence behind him. Doflamingo lunged with a sword, but Izuku effortlessly broke the weapon upon impact. He seized Doflamingo, enveloping his hand in dark flames, and declared that he would burn him. Doflamingo screamed in agony as Izuku used his own techniques against him, severing his head with a swift motion. Izuku then turned his attention to Muzan, delivering a powerful punch that caught him off guard. As Muzan transformed into his final form, Izuku couldn't help but mock his appearance. Muzan, enraged, charged at Izuku, but he was ready. With his sword in hand, Izuku charged forward, eager to continue the fight. Izuku charged forward, his energy building as he prepared a powerful attack. He unleashed a devastating move, sending Muzan flying back before he could regain his footing. Izuku appeared in front of him, wielding a sword enveloped in dark, swirling energy. With a fierce determination, he unleashed an abyssal blast that struck Muzan, propelling him further away. As he soared above, a grin spread across Izuku's face. He taunted Muzan, mentioning a certain figure in a playful manner, before delivering another powerful strike that reduced Muzan to dust. Suddenly, a horde of Nomus rushed toward him. Izuku sighed, feeling exasperated by their relentless pursuit. He summoned his daggers, switching from his sword, and swiftly moved through the ranks of the Nomus, cutting through them with ease as dark lightning crackled around him. With a confident smirk, he vanished and reappeared behind Shigaraki, seizing him with a menacing grin. Izuku reminded Shigaraki that he was the architect of their plan, implying that he would be the first to face the consequences. In a shocking display of strength, he tore Shigaraki apart, leaving everyone around him in stunned silence, unable to comprehend the scene before their eyes. Inko stood frozen, her disbelief palpable as she struggled to process the enormity of what had just occurred. Stella observed the scene with a heavy heart, realizing that this was not the Ikki she once knew. Momo stood beside her, equally troubled by the ruthlessness displayed before them. They watched as Izuku grinned, his expression unsettling as he looked at Toga, who was visibly terrified. Izuku taunted her, declaring that she would be next. In a panic, Toga attempted to flee, but Izuku leaped into the air, swiftly dispatching Spinner and twice with a single motion. He dismissed them as pathetic weaklings. All for One, panting heavily, regarded Izuku with a mix of fear and disbelief. He thought to himself that this child was a monster, capable of wiping everyone out. Izuku turned his attention to Kokobile, who was attempting to escape through a portal. Angered, Izuku used his Monarch authority to immobilize him. He demanded to know who had given Kokobile permission to leave, pulling him closer as dark energy enveloped his arm. Izuku declared that he had changed his mind. Instead of making Kokobile a shadow, he would devour him and his magic. Using his devour skill, Izuku consumed Kokobile whole, and a system notification appeared before him, revealing that he had gained new skills, including divine elemental manipulation and hell summoning. Izuku smirked at the newfound abilities, recognizing their potential. He looked down at All for One, his expression predatory, and wondered what skills he would acquire by devouring him and his quirks. With a mischievous grin, Izuku activated his Devour skill again, consuming All for One entirely. More notifications flooded his vision, informing him of the new skill he had gained, All for All, which allowed him to steal, copy, give, and create quirks and skills. Feeling a surge of power, Izuku glanced at Trihix's body lying on the ground, finding it disgusting yet intriguing. He decided to devour it as well, activating his skill once more. Shadows enveloped the body, and a creature emerged to consume it whole. As notifications continued to appear, Izuku felt an immense surge of power, his shadows growing stronger alongside him. He marveled at the multitude of abilities he had obtained, realizing he was now more powerful than ever. His shadows lined up, paying their respects to their king. Bellion reported that they had ensured all enemies were defeated, while Baru confirmed that none were left alive. Igris expressed hope that their efforts pleased him. Izuku smiled at his loyal shadows, acknowledging their hard work. He instructed them to return to his shadow, assuring them that he would call upon them when needed. As they vanished into the shadows, Izuku approached Cerberus's lifeless body. He saw potential in it and commanded it to arise. Shadows enveloped the body, transforming it into a larger form that bowed before him. Serbi, as Izuku named the creature, promised to serve him with honor and pride before returning to the shadows. Turning to the Union, Izuku noticed their astonished expressions at his display of power. A familiar voice broke the silence, teasing him about having fun. Izuku recognized it as Kana's and smiled in response. He greeted his harem and children, snapping his fingers to clean his clothes. Evangel rushed to him, calling out for her father. Izuku embraced her warmly, asking if she had missed him, to which she nodded adorably. Shin approached next, and Izuku bent down to ruffle his hair, feeling a sense of joy. However, his ex-harem was taken aback, shocked to hear the children refer to Izuku as their father. Katsumi, bewildered, questioned who the children were and why they called him Papa. Izuku, slightly irritated, clarified that they were his children, Evangel and Shin. The girls' eyes widened in disbelief, their hearts heavy with the realization that they had been replaced. Eri and Kota exchanged worried glances, struggling to comprehend the situation. Izuku stood firm, his expression filled with determination as he faced the group before him. He handed Evangel to Kana, who instinctively covered her ears. Mikima followed suit, shielding Shin from the tension in the air. Izuku declared that he had no intention of marrying any of them, expressing his happiness with his current family. Inko, his mother, pleaded for them to be a family again, but Mikima interrupted, insisting that Izuku was focused on revenge and they would support him in that quest. Inko flinched under Mikima's intense gaze. Izumi shouted in frustration, demanding to know who Mikima thought she was. Zani and Ei chimed in, asserting their roles as Izuku's wives and lovers. Izuku made it clear that his affections were for his girls, not for them. He expressed his disdain, stating that they could never be a family and that he wished them no good. The girls shared tender kisses with Izuku, but their hearts sank as they realized their chances with him were gone. Izuku smirked at their despair, assuring his girls that he would return home soon, promising to bring gifts for them and his daughter, Evangel. With a loving smile, he ruffled Shin's hair and instructed him to take care of his sister. After his girls teleported back home, Izuku turned his attention to Union, releasing an overwhelming aura that made the air thick and heavy. The members of Union struggled to breathe, feeling the weight of Izuku's presence. He demanded to know what he should do with them, his bloodlust intensifying. As he surveyed the scene, he felt the fear emanating from them. Surzex was overwhelmed by the sheer power radiating from Izuku, likening it to staring into an endless abyss. Inko, trembling, begged Izuku to stop, but he silenced her with a glare. He then focused on All Might, a sinister smirk crossing his face as he approached him, sending chills down All Might's spine. Izuku taunted All Might, revealing that he had taken One for All and sent its previous users to the afterlife. All Might's eyes widened in shock, struggling to comprehend Izuku's words. Izuku continued, stating that he intended to make All Might suffer for the loss of his father figure. The atmosphere grew tense as Izuku's cold gaze made it clear that he held all the power. He declared that he would use All Might as an example to show the others the seriousness of his intentions. The members of Union were paralyzed with fear, and Uraraka, Shoka, Katsumi, and Izumi pleaded with him to stop, but their words fell on deaf ears. Izuku's fury was unyielding as he grabbed All Might's hands, breaking them with a swift motion. All Might screamed in agony, but Izuku only smirked, relishing the moment. He continued to inflict pain, promising that this was only the beginning. As he healed All Might, preparing to repeat his torment, the onlookers realized that the Izuku they once knew was gone, replaced by a vengeful force determined to achieve his goals at any cost. Izuku summoned 2 soldiers, his gaze shifting to Eri, as the tension in the air thickened once more. Kota Izuku commanded the void to take Eri and Kota far away, ensuring they wouldn't hear or see the torment he was about to inflict on All Might. The soldiers nodded and led the children to a safe distance, shielding them from the scene. Izuku turned his attention to All Might, who was visibly terrified, trembling in fear. With a sinister grin, Izuku began his torment, expressing his intent to make All Might regret everything he had done. He seized both of All Might's arms, a chilling scream escaping from him as Izuku continued his cruel game. He relished in All Might's suffering, feeling a twisted sense of happiness from the pain he was causing. Izuku then targeted All Might's legs, using his powers to crush them under immense pressure. The onlookers could do nothing but watch, paralyzed by the overwhelming aura that Izuku emanated. He laughed maniacally, taunting All Might about his reputation as the symbol of peace, mocking him for not being able to maintain his usual smile. As All Might attempted to crawl away, Izuku's authority pulled him back effortlessly. He relished the moment, insisting that the fun had only just begun. Inko, desperate and fearful, pleaded with Izuku to let his father go. Her heart sank as she met his cold, glowing gaze, feeling the weight of his dangerous aura. Izumi, Katsumi, and the other girls joined in, begging Izuku to stop, fearing for All Might's life. Izuku shot them a chilling glare, silencing them with a reminder that their turn would come soon enough. With the girls quieted, Izuku returned his focus to All Might, smirking as he prepared to continue his torment. For the next 3 hours he relentlessly pursued his cruel intentions, breaking All Might's spirit with each passing moment. By the end of it, All Might's eyes were devoid of life, unable to withstand the agony Izuku had inflicted upon him. Izuku observed All Might's broken state, a satisfied smirk on his face. He taunted All Might about meeting his master in the afterlife, relishing the despair he had created. All Might, utterly defeated, could only wish for an end to his suffering. Izuku felt a sense of boredom creeping in, contemplating the fate of All Might. He observed the lifeless eyes of his former mentor widen in fear, realizing the extent of the trauma he had inflicted. A smirk crossed Izuku's face as he noted the spark of life returning to All Might's gaze, indicating that his spirit had not yet been broken. As rain began to fall, Izuku slicked his hair back, a dark aura enveloping him. He relished the thought of what was to come. For the next 4 hours, he subjected All Might to relentless torment, a sight that left the others in Union unable to bear witness. They were horrified, realizing that Izuku had transformed into a being of cruelty. When the ordeal concluded, Izuku stepped on All Might's head, proclaiming that he hoped the hero would never find peace in the afterlife. Gathering spirit energy, he unleashed a powerful attack that obliterated All Might's body, leaving only ashes in the aftermath. The explosion sent a cloud of smoke into the air, and as it cleared, Izumi and Inko, along with the other girls, were left in tears, regretting their choices. Izumi struggled to comprehend the loss of her father, while Izuku callously blew away the ashes, taunting her about her father's fate. He declared that All Might was gone, trapped in the afterlife, and he would ensure that his soul would never find peace. His heartlessness shocked Union, who could hardly believe that the boy they once knew had become such a monster. Izumi, overwhelmed with grief, cried out, questioning how Izuku could do this to his own father. Izuku dismissed her words, asserting that All Might was no longer his. father, and that he was the monster they had created. He berated her, calling her a waste of life, and mocked her tears, showing no remorse for his actions. As he turned his attention to Bakugo, who was waking up, Izuku smirked, recalling how he had broken Bakugo's jaw. He taunted Bakugo for his past bullying and arrogance, relishing the moment he had shattered Bakugo's ego. Izuku looked down at him, asserting that Bakugo was nothing more than an insect that deserved to be crushed. With a sinister grin, Izuku contemplated what to do next, deciding to inflict the same torment on Bakugo that he had on All Might. Despite Bakugo's instincts urging him to flee, he was unable to escape Izuku's grasp. As Izuku began to torture Bakugo, he noted the lifeless expression in his eyes, reminiscent of All Might's. Izuku continued his relentless assault, comparing Bakugo to his idol and reveling in the despair he was causing. He sensed the arrival of Kirishima, Shoto, and Izuka, pulling them toward him with his newfound power. Dropping them near Bakugo, he smirked, ready to extend his torment to the entire group. As he tortured them, Izuku took pleasure in their suffering, repeating the cycle of pain and healing, only to inflict it again. He crushed their spirits, leaving them broken and devoid of hope. Finally, he offered them a chance to live, teasing them with the prospect of mercy and a normal life, only to reveal that it was a cruel joke. With a dark aura surrounding him, Izuku prepared to take Draig's power for himself, merging it with his own being. As he embraced his new form, he felt the surge of power coursing through him, knowing that he had become something far greater than before. Unique skill boost system. Would you like to evolve the skill into Shadow Boost? Yes or no? Izuku chose to evolve the skill, confident that Draig, Zangetsu, and the old man Yawatch would handle any threats. With a smirk, he looked at Issei and expressed gratitude for the gift, revealing that he could now utilize Issei's abilities. Everyone's eyes widened as Izuku covered his hand in dark flames, declaring that he hoped Issei would never find peace in the afterlife. He unleashed a powerful attack, and Issei's form disintegrated into dust. Turning to Shoto and Kirishima, Izuku announced that he had a different way to send them to the afterlife. He swiftly incapacitated Shoto, and then approached Kirishima with a smirk, claiming he had a method to deal with him as well. With a swift motion, Izuku sent Kirishima soaring into the air and summoned his sword, cutting him into countless pieces before incinerating the remains. He then used his authority to crush Izuku's form down to the size of a tennis ball. Taking a deep breath, he gazed at the sky, reflecting on his father's revenge and hoping he would be proud. Turning back to the remaining members of the Union, Izuku made it clear that they would live for now, but he would hunt them down one by one. He warned them that they would suffer the same fate as their fallen comrades. Izuku summoned Void and Abyss, who dropped Eri and Kota down to him. Eri hesitantly called out to him, and Kota followed suit. Izuku, feeling uncomfortable with their terms of endearment, insisted he was neither their father nor their dad. Eri asked if he hated them, to which Izuku replied that he did not hold grudges against children. Kota began to express hope, but Izuku interrupted, stating that he would not take Kota with him. He explained that their words had hurt him deeply, especially coming from those he had risked his life for. As he prepared to leave, he took one last look at the Union before disappearing. In the distance, an observer noted Izuku's ruthlessness, realizing that his growing strength could pose problems. The figure decided to inform the other apostles and rulers, but was suddenly confronted by Izuku, who was ready to attack. Izuku demanded to know who she was and expressed his impatience. The mysterious figure struggled to respond, feeling the pressure of his grip tightening around her neck. As Izuku's aura intensified, she realized the depth of his power and the seriousness of his intentions. Finally, she revealed her identity as Sarah, one of the apostles of Iterum, and acknowledged her rank. Izuku, intrigued, decided to ask her a few questions, promising to spare her life if she answered honestly. He warned her that lying would lead to dire consequences, making it clear that he was not joking. With a chilling aura surrounding him, Izuku demanded that she start talking about her and her associates. Sarah was in a precarious situation, feeling the tightening grip around her neck. She thought to herself that if she didn't find a way to escape, her life would be in jeopardy. Izuku, applying more pressure, demanded she start talking, his patience wearing thin. Sarah reluctantly revealed that they were planning to gain more followers and absorb the mana of this world. Izuku listened intently as she explained that the Iterim had conquered multiple dimensions, and their gods had even created their own universes. Izuku questioned why they had chosen this world, recalling that they had done the same in his old world. Sarah confirmed that after discovering the Absolute Being was dead, they decided to conquer his world. She explained that the Absolute Being had created more than one world, and this was one of them. The Iterim had taken over his other worlds, but he was protecting this one, making it difficult for their forces to invade. Since his barrier blocked them, they planned to take over Earth from within, alongside their forces already present. Izuku, sensing she was still hiding something, pressed her for information about the leader of the Iterim and the gods she mentioned. He revealed that he had already defeated some outer gods but suspected they were not the main ones. He warned her that if she didn't provide the information he sought, he might not spare her life. In a moment of desperation, Sarah summoned a light spear and attempted to stab Izuku. He evaded her attack and let her go, sliding back slightly. Izuku expressed his disappointment at her choice, promising to make her suffering as painless as possible. He rushed at her with incredible speed, delivering a powerful punch that sent her crashing into multiple trees. As she struggled to recover, Izuku appeared above her and slammed her into the ground, causing her to cough up a strange golden substance. Surprised by the color of her blood, he commented on her non-human nature. Sarah, now furious, attempted to retaliate with her light magic, creating another spear. Just as she was about to throw it, Izuku appeared before her, grabbing the spear and crushing it effortlessly, leaving her in shock. He then slammed her to the ground again, and she coughed up more blood, calling him a monster. When she tried to flee, Izuku caught her wings, smirking as he prepared to take them from her. Sarah's eyes widened in fear as she realized what was about to happen. With a swift motion, he tore her wings away, and her screams echoed through the forest. He coldly reminded her that all of this could have been avoided if she had simply answered his questions. As she pleaded for mercy, Izuku showed no signs of compassion. He expressed his disdain for having to deal with someone like her, but he took pleasure in seeing her fear. He reveled in the suffering of his enemies, finding joy in their despair. He then grabbed her head, surrounded by a dark aura, and decided to delve into her memories to uncover the secrets she was hiding. In her mindscape, he found it plain and unremarkable until he sensed a dangerous presence. Two golden eyes stared back at him, and a voice questioned his audacity to intrude on their apostles' memories. Izuku recognized this entity as the leader of the Iterim, who warned him that there were stronger apostles and that they would soon conquer this world. Izuku challenged the entity, taunting it to reveal itself and face him. The voice promised that their battle would come in due time and that they, the outer gods, were absolute in their power. Izuku vowed to find them and the rulers, determined to end their reign. He declared that he would hunt down each apostle until none remained. A golden figure appeared before him, exuding authority and power, but Izuku remained unfazed. The figure warned him of the impending conflict between the Iterim and himself. Izuku declared his intent to eliminate their apostles one by one and promised that he would come for them next. With a fierce determination, he prepared to use his shadow magic to delve deeper into Sarah's memories, ready to uncover the truth. They were kidnapping people and mind-controlling them, turning them into puppets. Izuku witnessed them experimenting on innocent individuals, and he emerged from his inner world, filled with anger. He thought about the situation, realizing how despicable they were for their actions. Looking down at Sarah's lifeless body, he felt a surge of frustration, suspecting that she had hidden her memories from him. He acknowledged their cunningness. Activating his skill, Blood Encounter, he felt a rush of power. The system informed him that the skill allowed him to absorb the essence of the deceased. He extracted the core from Sarah's body, watching it transform into dust while glowing brightly. He examined the mana core, noting its purity despite the darkness within her heart. The system prompted him with an opportunity to create a weapon using the core, one that would grant him authority over light. The weapon would absorb light attacks, growing stronger with each one. Izuku contemplated the usefulness of this weapon but decided to save it for Kana, the Light Monarch, intending to craft something special for her. He stored the core in his inventory and reviewed the skills he had gained from devouring Trihex's body. He felt satisfied with the powerful abilities he had acquired, including a skill called Shadow Boost, which combined his shadow powers with enhanced agility. He planned to test these new skills during his daily training, eager to see their potential. Despite his newfound strength, Izuku felt a drive to grow even stronger. He needed to enhance his Shadow Monarch and Soul King forms and uncover the locations where the experiments were taking place. Summoning a few shadow soldiers, he instructed them to gather information on the Iterum and their apostles, emphasizing the importance of remaining unseen. The soldiers acknowledged his command and vanished to carry out their tasks. He then summoned Abyss and Void, who knelt before him. He tasked them with observing Union Academy and ensuring the safety of Eri and Kota, expressing his concern for their well-being. As they departed, Igris, Bellion, and Baru appeared in their smaller forms. Igris noted that Izuku still cared for Eri and Kota despite their past actions. Baru remarked on Izuku's reluctance to let go of his feelings. Bellion inquired if Izuku would consider taking them back as his children. Izuku admitted uncertainty, stating that only time would reveal his decision. Bellion reassured him that they would stand by his side regardless of his choice. Tusk joined in, affirming their loyalty. Izuku felt a warmth in his heart, grateful for the bond they shared. He expressed that they were more than just shadow soldiers, they were family. Baru shed tears of gratitude, and Izuku comforted him, affirming his sincerity. Tusk expressed their honor in being considered family. Izuku decided it was time to return home, knowing the girls and children awaited him. Igris reminded him of his promise to bring gifts for Evangel and Shin, which Izuku had forgotten. He thanked Igris for the reminder and instructed the others to return to his shadow. As he called for Casiel, the creature roared, breaking multiple sound barriers before bowing before him. Izuku patted Casiel's head, enjoying the moment as it wagged its tail. He announced their departure, and they soared through the skies toward Dream City at incredible speed. In a different dimension, the rulers convened to discuss Izuku's growing power. Michael expressed concern that the Shadow Monarch was becoming a significant threat to their plans. The other rulers acknowledged that his strength was increasing with each battle, and they needed a strategy to eliminate him, as he had surpassed even Ashborne. They discussed the Iterum's involvement and their need for more followers to conduct experiments. The rulers recognized the necessity of addressing the other monarchs who sided with Izuku, realizing they posed a challenge as well. Michael remained determined to eliminate all threats, including the Shadow Monarch. Meanwhile, Izuku sat in his office, deep in thought as a week had passed since he saved some of the people who had been subjected to the Iterum's experiments. He reflected on the ongoing situation, knowing there was still much work to be done. Izuku hoped they would be found soon. He couldn't allow them to grow stronger. They had to be eliminated at any cost. He had ignored them for too long, and now it was time to begin his hunt for their apostles, as they were the pillars of their plans. His eyes glowed purple as he focused ahead, a serious expression on his face. A dark and dangerous aura surrounded him, radiating power and dominance. He was determined that all those apostles would face their end. He would not lose to the outer gods and the pathetic rulers who had allied with them. He was going to hunt them all down. In the past, they had been called hunters for a reason. It was about time the real hunt began. When he saw them, it would be on sight. The scene shifted to Union Academy, where the students were recovering from their last encounter with Izuku. The girls tended to their wounds, reflecting on the consequences of their actions. They felt a deep sadness as they realized what they had done to Izuku, transforming him into a cold-hearted and ruthless individual. Jairu lamented their faults, expressing regret that if they had believed in him when he claimed his innocence, they wouldn't be in this predicament. Stella echoed her sentiment, acknowledging that they had turned him into someone seeking revenge. Rias admitted they had made the biggest mistakes of their lives. Momo reflected on how Izuku had always been the kindest person they knew, willing to help those in need despite his monstrous strength. Toru noted that he was now something entirely different. Ibra shared that when she looked at him, she saw nothing but darkness. Yui added that his strength had reached an entirely new level, recalling how he had effortlessly defeated the strongest beast known to them. Supernatural. Kendo reflected on the recent events, noting how Izuku fought with an unsettling ease, as if it were an everyday occurrence for him. Uraraka recalled the coldness in his gaze, devoid of any emotion. It sent chills down her spine, and the thought of it filled her with fear. Izuku had moved on. He now had a daughter and a son. Mio added that he had even gotten married. The realization struck the girls hard, and tears began to flow as they recognized that Izuku had been the best thing that ever happened to them. They told themselves they would earn his forgiveness, even though deep down, they knew it would be nearly impossible. Still, they clung to the hope of redemption. Meanwhile, Eri and Kota were sleeping, exhausted from the day's events. In the shadows, Abyss and Void watched over them, their thoughts dark. Abyss remarked on how the girls believed they could earn their liege's forgiveness. Void scoffed, pointing out that their dreams were unrealistic and unattainable. Abyss agreed, stating that once their liege set his mind on something, he would not change it until it was accomplished. Void added that their days were numbered, and nothing could save them from their liege's wrath. The scene shifted to a meeting room where pro-heroes, teachers, and headmasters gathered to discuss the recent events surrounding Izuku. Nizu opened the meeting, expressing relief that everyone was present. A heavy silence filled the room as they processed what Izuku had become and the power he had displayed. Lady spoke up, expressing her discomfort at revisiting that day. Mirko echoed her sentiments, describing Izuku as a complete monster who exhibited absolute dominance. VK noted his ruthlessness, while Nizu recalled Izuku's hatred towards them and his desire for revenge. Ashborne shared his shock at the power Izuku had displayed, likening it to facing an unfathomable darkness. Surzex added that Izuku had effortlessly defeated the strongest beast in the supernatural realm. Ironwood noted how Izuku's cold gaze had sent chills down his spine, a look that conveyed nothing but hatred. Inko's heart sank as she reflected on her son. She recognized that his eyes revealed a thirst for revenge and that they had transformed him into a cold, ruthless figure. Surzex concluded that reasoning with Izuku was no longer an option. He had become a monster driven by vengeance. Hawks agreed, stating that there was no negotiating with someone so intent on causing suffering. Inko's voice trembled as she whispered about her baby boy, feeling the weight of what had happened. It was all her fault. She broke down in tears as Emi and Midnight comforted her. Aizawa felt the weight of failure as a teacher, lamenting that he couldn't help the troubled student when he needed it most. Nizu reminded everyone that they had all failed, turning him into an unstoppable force driven by revenge. Snipe raised a troubling question about whether they could stop him. Nizu expressed doubt, recalling the terrifying monsters Izuku had summoned and how powerful they were. During the fight, Izuku had seemed to hold back, indicating he was still capable of more. Ashborne agreed, noting that they stood little chance against Izuku, who had transcended ordinary strength. Ryukyu suggested creating an anti-barrier to restrict his powers, but Mirko pointed out that even without a quirk, Izuku was formidable. Midnight recounted how he had defeated an army of formidable foes using only his raw strength and martial arts, emphasizing the impossibility of such a feat. Ashborne acknowledged the reality of their situation, while Midnight reiterated that even if they managed to suppress his powers, they would still be outmatched. Surzex urged everyone to prepare, stressing the need to train the students to reach their full potential, as Izuku would not remain idle. Ironwood agreed, emphasizing the importance of finding a way to bring back Bakugo, Izuku, Kirishima, and Shoto, who were their strongest students. Surzex mentioned he would consult Michael about possibly reviving them, along with All Might, and would also reach out to Azazel for assistance in restoring Issei's abilities. Inko expressed her surprise at the plan, and Ashborne reassured her that they could use an ancient spell to bring them back. They would also seek help from other cities, knowing they needed all the support they could gather to confront the threat Izuku posed. They all nodded in agreement, believing they could take him down. In the shadows, Void and Abyss listened, chuckling at the naivety of their opponents. Void remarked on their foolishness, while Abyss found it amusing that they were trying to resurrect their fallen allies. They decided to inform Izuku about the plans being made against him. The scene shifted to Izuku, who was training by a riverbank beneath a small waterfall. He sat in meditation, focusing on clearing his mind and channeling his shadow and spiritual energy. As he concentrated, a dark aura enveloped him, intensifying as he became more powerful. In his inner world, he found himself surrounded by Zangetsu and Yawatch, with Draig chained up nearby. Yawatch explained that Draig had been uncooperative, leading them to take action. Izuku smirked, knowing Zangetsu's nature well. He approached the chained dragon, expressing his desire for Draig to submit to him. Draig, defiant, called Izuku a monster and questioned why he would help someone seeking revenge. Izuku countered, suggesting that Draig should be grateful for being freed from Issei, who had tarnished his name. He pointed out that Draig's reputation had suffered since being associated with Issei, and that he could restore it by joining forces with him. Izuku promised that together they would become a feared duo in the supernatural world, ensuring that Draig would never again be disrespected. He vowed to make Draig the strongest being, even greater than the legendary dragons. Zangetsu and Yawatch supported Izuku's words, reinforcing the idea that they would be unstoppable as a team. With a commanding presence, Izuku asked Draig to join him as a partner. Draig, sensing the sincerity in Izuku's words, agreed. The chains binding him fell away, and Izuku welcomed him as the shadow dragon of domination. Draig's appearance transformed, radiating a dark and powerful aura that resonated with the other dragons. Izuku admired Draig's new look, and they discussed how their abilities would merge, creating a new power dynamic. As they prepared to leave the inner world, Izuku felt the surge of their combined strength, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Izuku was about to become much stronger than before. A dark and powerful aura enveloped his body as he activated his balance breaker. He admired the color and design of his new form, finding it far superior to Issei's. It looked impressive and formidable. He wondered if there were other forms available to him. Draig confirmed that there were indeed more forms but advised Izuku to practice using them later. Curious about the name of his new form, Izuku learned it was called Judgment Drive, the final form of a dragon emperor. He realized he now had 2 additional forms at his disposal, which could greatly benefit him. With a grin, Izuku expressed his eagerness to test his new abilities. The girls and children felt the dark aura he was emitting and came out to see him. Evangel, with sparkling eyes, complimented his new form, and Izuku smiled as he patted her head. Mikima guessed that this was his balance breaker, the one associated with the red dragon. Izuku explained that Draig had fused with his shadow powers, transforming into the shadow dragon of domination. Kana suggested he test his power in this form. They teleported to a safe distance from the city, where Izuku decided to demonstrate his strength. He charged mana through his gauntlet, amplifying his power 5-fold. With a powerful attack, he unleashed a shadow blast at the mountains, causing a massive explosion that left the girls in awe of his strength. Evangel and Shin admired their father's power, aspiring to be just as strong when they grew up. Afterward, Izuku returned to his normal state, wearing only pants. The girls blushed at his impressive physique. He remarked that his balance breaker was far more powerful than Issei's and looked forward to testing it against the Iterum. Noticing the girls' reactions, he playfully lifted their chins, teasing them about their admiration for his appearance. They expressed their appreciation, and Izuku felt grateful for their love and support. Zani mentioned that Evangel wanted to have a family day or picnic, and Izuku happily agreed, saying they could prepare for it after a shower. Just then, Abyss and Void arrived, bowing before him. Izuku greeted them and inquired about their news regarding Union Academy. Abyss revealed that they had uncovered a plan from Union, prompting Izuku's dark chuckle as he listened. He found it amusing that they believed they could revive those he had defeated and stand a chance against him. Mavuka and Arlecchino joined in, commenting on the absurdity of their confidence. Izuku laughed heartily, realizing they were underestimating his power. Kana covered Evangel and Shin's ears to shield them from his colorful language. He noted that no matter how much training they did, they could never reach his level of strength. Abyss suggested stopping them from resurrecting their fallen allies, but Izuku dismissed the idea, seeing it as an opportunity for more entertainment. With a grin, he mentioned the prospect of torturing them again. He summoned energy cores containing the souls of Katsuki, Shoto, Issei, Kirishima, Izuku, and All Might. The girls gasped in surprise, realizing he had taken their souls before they could pass on. Izuku explained that he could wipe them from existence if he chose to. He decided to crush All Might's core, ensuring he would no longer exist. He left the others' souls intact, eager to devise new methods of torment for them, believing they had escaped too easily before. After sharing his plans with Abyss and Void, who nodded in agreement, he prepared for the picnic. The girls kissed him goodbye, and he returned their affection before heading to the shower. After a refreshing 30-minute shower, he emerged, steam rising from his body. Feeling revitalized, he dressed in his chosen outfit, ready for the family day ahead. Dressed in all black, Izuku headed downstairs to find his family waiting for him. He announced that he was ready to go, and they all set off together for a family picnic. They enjoyed their time together, sharing food and ice cream, and the kids had a wonderful day. As night fell, the scene shifted to Izuku's room, where he and the girls were talking after their visit to the hot springs. Izuku entered the room with a playful smirk, suggesting that since the kids were asleep, they could have some fun. The girls responded with eager smiles, clearly excited about the idea. Izuku then used his magic to create soundproof barriers around the room, ensuring their privacy. He playfully ripped off his shirt, revealing his impressive physique, and confidently declared that he intended to make the night memorable for everyone. The narrative transitioned to a different dimension, where mysterious figures were plotting against Izuku. They discussed their frustrations with the Shadow Monarch, who had thwarted their plans at every turn. One figure expressed disbelief at Izuku's strength, while another warned that his power surpassed even that of the absolute being who had been defeated by his own creations. They recounted their failed attempts to conquer Earth, describing how their forces had encountered an overwhelming darkness that felt like staring into the abyss. The figures shared stories of their fallen comrades, who had been easily defeated by Izuku, now known as the Shadow Monarch and Protector of the Universe. One figure, intrigued by Izuku's power, acknowledged the danger he posed and suggested they needed a plan to eliminate him. As they strategized, it became clear that Izuku's abilities were far beyond what they had anticipated, and they would need to tread carefully if they hoped to succeed in their mission. The tension built as they realized that their current strength was insufficient to face him, but they remained determined to find a way to overcome the Shadow Monarch and claim Earth for themselves. The Shadow Monarch's world was theirs to conquer, and no one would stop them from claiming it. Void inquired about the others, to which Bella explained that they were all currently occupied but would attend the next meeting. Void pondered the situation, asking about a particular individual. Bella revealed that he was in a different dimension, absorbing mana to grow stronger, motivated by the strength of the Shadow Monarch. Void understood and listened as Bella continued, mentioning that the rulers were on their side and had found vessels to eliminate the Shadow Monarch. They also needed to deal with the other monarchs who supported him. Void smirked at Bella, assuring her that they would handle those threats as well. The Shadow Monarch's days were numbered, and he would not live much longer. Bella mirrored his smirk, her aura intensifying as she declared that the Shadow Monarch would soon perish, allowing them to take over the world. They would reign supreme, and no one could stand in their way. As they plotted, the scene shifted to a different dimension, where a mysterious figure radiated a dangerous and deadly aura while absorbing mana. The golden aura surrounding him intensified, shaking the very fabric of the dimension. A voice echoed, declaring that he would be the one to end the Shadow Monarch himself. Another voice followed, promising that the Shadow Monarch would perish at their hands as an outer god of the Interim. The third voice asserted that they would not be stopped in their pursuit of their goals and dreams. With a surge of energy, he flared his aura, causing the dimension to tremble even more. The other main gods of the Interim would be introduced later in the story. The scene shifted to the Gremory estate, where a young boy with red hair sat in his room, engrossed in books about controlling his destructive powers. This boy was Millicass Gremory, the son of Surzex Gremory and Graphia Lucifuge. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his lineage and the responsibility that came with it. It had been years since Izuku had disappeared, And Millicass couldn't believe that Aunt Rias, along with everyone else, would betray him. Millicass could tell that the picture circulating was clearly fake, but since everyone was fooled, they believed it. He was surprised to hear Eri and Kota say those things about Izuku. Millicass had always looked up to Izuku, considering him a big brother and a role model. He had been a fan of Izuku, but when Izuku was betrayed, Millicass was shocked and angry. He tried to defend Izuku but was easily overpowered by Surzex, who began to ignore him and Graphia. No one believed him. Millicass sighed, feeling neglected by his father, who seemed more focused on work and family reputation than on him or his mother. He continued reading his book, lost in thought. Meanwhile, Izuku was in his gym, deep in thought during his workout session. He was still unable to locate the main gods of the Iterum, realizing they were skilled at hiding. The apostles were also elusive, as he had found their bases empty after eliminating one of their own. He noted that their followers were clever at concealing themselves. Izuku sensed they were planning something significant, and he needed to uncover their intentions. He also had to deal with the Union, who foolishly thought they could challenge him with training. He found it amusing that they believed they stood a chance against him. After 3 hours of intense training, Izuku wiped the sweat from his brow, feeling refreshed. He decided it was time for a shower. After 30 minutes, he emerged and began to get dressed. Just then, Mikima walked in, catching his attention. She greeted him affectionately, and they shared a brief kiss before breaking apart. Izuku smiled at her and asked what she needed. Mikima explained that the other girls had asked her to bring him to breakfast, where had prepared a delicious meal. Izuku acknowledged her request and promised to join them shortly. Mikima smiled, kissed him on the cheek, and left the room. Izuku finished getting ready and headed downstairs, where he found everyone gathered for breakfast. He greeted them warmly, and they returned the sentiment. As he took a seat, Evangel climbed onto his lap, and he smiled at her with love and affection. They enjoyed their breakfast together, filled with laughter and jokes, creating a warm family atmosphere. After finishing, Izuku made his way to his palace in Dream City, entering the throne room and taking his seat. He had a busy day ahead, with paperwork to attend to and issues to address for his people. His assistant entered, placing a pile of papers in front of him. Izuku examined the stack and realized he had a lot of work to do. His assistant informed him that many people were requesting assistance with various matters. Izuku acknowledged the workload and prepared to tackle it. As he began reviewing the papers, he noted a gate had appeared on the west side of the city. He summoned his shadows, Bellion and Igris, instructing them to handle the S-rank gate. They bowed and assured him it would be taken care of. After sending his other shadows to assist with the people's issues, Izuku stacked the papers together and closed his eyes for a moment of reflection. Suddenly, he found himself in his inner world, looking around for Zangetsu and Old Man Yawatch. Sensing something, he turned to see his past self being mistreated by the Yagi family and his friends before he had learned martial arts. Izuku observed his past self with a mix of disdain and understanding. He recognized the pain and weakness he had once felt. As he confronted his past, he felt a surge of power and dominance. He recalled the day everything changed, when the facade of a fairy tale life crumbled, revealing the harsh reality of neglect and abuse for being quirkless. He reflected on the years that had passed, realizing that while he had grown stronger, his past self had remained stagnant. Izuku grabbed his past self by the neck, forcing him to confront the truth. He had faced death countless times and had trained relentlessly to become who he was now. Becoming this strong was a challenge for Izuku. He looked down at his past self, feeling a mix of disdain and determination. He thought about how he wished to erase that pathetic version of himself. A week later in his timeline, he reflected on how that boy was already tougher than he could have ever imagined. He threw his past self to the ground, asserting that they would never be on the same level. Izuku expressed his feelings of betrayal and regret, recalling how he had given others a second chance, only to be let down. He felt heartbroken when he was framed and none of them believed him. They had discarded him like trash, and he felt cheated, especially when he saw them with people he considered brothers. Despite the harsh words they had thrown at him, he couldn't bring himself to hate them because he still cared. Yet he was clear about his intentions. He felt that while some might have a chance, the rest would face dire consequences. He was determined to make them pay for their actions, vowing to ensure they faced a fate they wouldn't forget. He had changed and was no longer the boy he once was. He grabbed his past self by the neck, looking him in the eye, and reiterated that they were not the same. As his past self shattered into purple fragments, Izuku heard a familiar voice he hadn't heard in a long time. It was Ashborne, who expressed pride in Izuku's growth. They exchanged pleasantries, and Ashborne acknowledged Izuku's transformation since his reincarnation. Izuku felt a sense of camaraderie as they discussed his life and the challenges he faced. Izuku sought advice from Ashborne about Eri and Kota, torn between wanting to take them in as his children and the pain of their past words. Ashborne encouraged him to follow his heart and assured him of his support. With newfound clarity, Izuku thanked Ashborne, knowing what he needed to do. As the scene shifted to Union Academy, preparations were underway to bring back those Izuku had dealt with. Surzex and the other headmasters were readying a spell to revive Bakugo and the others, believing it might give them a fighting chance against Izuku. Meanwhile, Abyss and Void laughed at their naivety, knowing that bringing back those individuals would not change the outcome. In the afterlife, Bakugo, Shoto, Issei, Kirishima, and Izuku floated in an empty void, consumed by thoughts of revenge. Suddenly, Bella appeared before them, offering power in exchange for their allegiance to the Iterum. Despite their skepticism, Bella's display of power left them in awe, realizing that she was not to be underestimated. The story continued as Izuku prepared for the challenges ahead, determined to forge his own path and confront the past that haunted him. God, you're a creator I could erase from existence, so watch how you speak to me. Bella warned them never to disrespect her again, making her intentions clear. They all nodded their heads in fear as she smirked. Bella continued, stating that they would work for her and she would grant them power beyond their wildest dreams. Katsuki asked if that meant they would receive power to defeat Deku. Bella confirmed this, adding that they would soon be brought back to life by their friends. She thought to herself that they would be good pawns for her, allowing her to gain more followers through them. This was also a test to see how powerful her pawns could become with quirks alongside her powers. She summoned a piece of paper and instructed them to sign the contract, assuring them they had a deal. They nodded and signed, feeling an unbelievable surge of power coursing through their veins. Their quirks evolved to god-level powers, and they gained additional abilities as Bella smirked. She also provided them with stardust, which would boost their powers tenfold. Additionally, she created a new sacred gear for Issei, similar to his boost gear but much stronger. Bella explained that All Might was gone for good and that she couldn't bring him back, as Izuku had destroyed his soul and wiped him from existence. With everything settled, she warned them not to disappoint her before disappearing. Union successfully brought them back to life, and they were surprised by the powerful and dangerous auras they were now releasing. Surzex questioned how they had gained such powerful auras. Katsuki replied that it was due to training and their plans for revenge against Deku. Izumi expressed concern about why they couldn't bring back their father, noting that the spell had worked for them but not for him. Katsuki explained that All Might's soul had been destroyed by Izuku, which shocked Union. Izumi and Inko cried, saddened that they couldn't bring back their husband and father. Meanwhile, Izuku was with Ei in an open field, sitting next to a tree and enjoying their time together. However, they sensed the powerful auras coming from Katsuki and his friends. Igris pointed out the strong energy, and Izuku acknowledged that it seemed they had been brought back. Tai, feeling the aura, noted that it was very strong and coming from Union City. Izuku agreed and decided they should pay Union Academy a visit. Tai smiled at his suggestion, excited to accompany him. At Union Academy, Ironwood questioned how Bakugo and his gang had become so powerful. Issei explained that they had received help from someone who granted them this power and created a new sacred gear for him, stronger than the boost gear. Nizu acknowledged the need for training, as they were uncertain when Izuku might attack. Ashbin emphasized the importance of preparing for his arrival. Shoto confidently stated that they were stronger than Deku and would put an end to him. Issei added that they had gained godlike powers, with their quirks and magic stronger than before. Suddenly, a voice interrupted them, causing everyone to turn in surprise. Izuku sat on a throne, looking like a king, with Ei beside him on her own throne. Bakugo shouted his name in disbelief, while Ei teased him for finally barking. Izuku acknowledged that they had been brought back to life and taunted Bakugo about his experience in the afterlife, suggesting he could send him back if he wanted. A chill ran down everyone's spines as Izuku analyzed them, sensing that they had received a boost from a god. Baru offered to eliminate them immediately, but Izuku instructed him to wait for the right moment. Ai remarked on the return of Bakugo and his friends, while Izumi angrily declared they would end the monster who killed their father. Ei countered that Izumi and Izuku were not related and that he hated her and her friends. Izuku confirmed that he had destroyed All Might's soul, and Ei added that they should be grateful to him for removing such a waste of space from the earth. Izumi and Inko gritted their teeth in anger, glaring at Izuku and Ei, who remained unfazed. Izuku and Ei stood up, their thrones disappearing. Surzex questioned Izuku's presence, to which Izuku replied that he had come to see the ones they had brought back to life, lamenting that they would soon die again. He mentioned having picked up new methods of tormenting them, which he planned to use when he decided to end their lives. Rias pleaded with Izuku, stating they didn't want to fight and could start over. Izuku harshly told her to stop saying his name lightly, warning her of the consequences. Shoka begged for a chance, expressing their regret for past actions. Izuku coldly responded that their regrets meant nothing to him and wouldn't stop him from tormenting them and their friends. The girls felt hurt by his words, while Katsuki and Shoto seethed with anger. Katsuki declared that he wouldn't allow Izuku to make his sister cry, and Shoto vowed to kill him. Issei prepared to show them what they were made of, activating his new balance breaker. At Izuku's location, things were as they had always been, but now there was a golden aura surrounding Bakugo's squad. They began to use their quirks, eager to put Izuku in his place. Izuku smirked, taunting them by calling them weaklings. Katsuki, furious, charged at him, demanding to know what he had said. Izuku only grinned wider, enjoying the moment. He called Katsuki a little puppy and challenged him to prove his strength. Izuku continued to insult Katsuki's friends, dismissing them as pathetic. His confident demeanor startled everyone, but Ei found it strangely attractive. She couldn't help but admire his boldness, thinking to herself how appealing he looked at that moment. Katsuki rushed at Izuku with incredible speed, landing a punch that sent Izuku flying into a wall. The onlookers were surprised, some even starting to believe that Katsuki might have a chance. Ei sighed, realizing that Izuku had allowed the hit, knowing he wasn't taking the fight seriously. She anticipated the moment when everyone would realize Izuku was still unfazed. Katsuki unleashed a flurry of punches, his hands enveloped in explosions, but Izuku simply absorbed the blows. The cheering from the other students only fueled Katsuki's confidence, but Izuku found the punches to be laughably weak. He thought to himself that even a newborn could hit harder than that. Ei observed the fight, noting that Katsuki's attacks were doing no damage. She couldn't help but think how amusing it would be when everyone discovered how little impact Katsuki's punches had. As Katsuki stepped back, confused by Izuku's smirk, Izuku emerged from the crater, dusting himself off. The crowd gasped in shock at his lack of injuries. Izuku remarked on the pathetic display of power from Katsuki and his friends, expressing disappointment that they were still so weak despite their powers. With a sudden burst of speed, Izuku vanished, leaving a gust of wind in his wake. He reappeared, kicking Katsuki into the forest. Following that, he delivered a punch that sent Katsuki crashing to the ground, leaving him coughing. Katsuki attempted to retaliate with an explosion, but Izuku remained unfazed, mocking the weakness of his opponent's kick. Izuku then unleashed a powerful combo, sending Katsuki flying back into a wall, knocked out. He sighed, disappointed that even with newfound powers, Katsuki was still so weak. As Shoto approached with an ice katana, ready to attack, his weapon shattered upon touching Izuku's neck. Izuku dismissed Shoto's attempt, grabbing his face and slamming him to the ground, creating a massive crater. Noticing Izuku and Issei rushing toward him, Izuku prepared for their approach. Draig, his dragon partner, sensed a powerful energy from Issei, indicating he had received a sacred gear. Just as the others were about to intervene, Ai used her telekinesis to pin them down, insisting they let Izuku have his fun. Izuku turned to Issei, noting the glow in his eyes and the newfound power he possessed. He challenged Issei to confront Draig directly. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted, heavy with a powerful aura that resonated throughout the world. Every heavenly dragon and their hosts felt it, recognizing Draig's presence. As the aura intensified, even Ophis and Great Red sensed it, bewildered by Draig's newfound strength. Back with Izuku, Draig appeared beside him in his spiritual form, and Izuku smirked, ready to face the challenge ahead. The onlookers were in shock, unable to comprehend how Draig had emerged from his sacred gear. Inside the sacred gears, Nizu observed the situation with curiosity. Izuku, confident in his abilities, noted that he was the impossible, suggesting that Issei should confront Draig directly since he was now present. Issei felt a wave of fear wash over him as Draig's aura radiated danger, making him acutely aware of the potential threat to his life. I teased Issei about his nervousness, pointing out how visibly shaken he was. Ashborne sensed something different about Draig, while Surzex noted that Draig seemed much stronger than when he was with Issei, his aura darker and more intimidating. Rias felt the shift in energy as well, realizing that Draig was far more powerful than before. Issei stammered, trying to comprehend the situation. Draig greeted Issei with a mocking tone, asking how the afterlife had treated him. Issei was bewildered, questioning how Draig had escaped the confines of the sacred. Draig explained that nothing was impossible for his new partner, Izuku Sung Kurosaki. Issei pleaded for Draig to return to him, but Draig dismissed the idea, expressing his contentment in his current situation. Draig reminded Issei of the disrespect he had faced while being his partner, revealing that he had been ridiculed by other heavenly dragons. He lamented that his once feared name had become a joke, and he criticized Issei for his lack of training and focus, suggesting that Issei was more interested in frivolous pursuits than in becoming stronger. Draig declared that since joining Izuku, he had regained his strength and respect, now identifying as the Shadow Dragon of Domination. He vowed to fight alongside Izuku until the end, asserting their partnership as formidable. As Draig vanished into Izuku, Izuku stood tall, his presence commanding. He addressed Union, expressing his intention to spare them for now, wanting to confront them when they were at their weakest. He warned them to heal and grow stronger, for when the time came he would not hold back. A heavy pressure enveloped them, and Izuku's cold gaze made it clear that he would show no mercy when the day of reckoning arrived. The scene shifted to Izuku waking up, noticing that his girls were not around. He felt refreshed after a good night's sleep. His shadows manifested, greeting him warmly. Izuku stretched, recalling the celebration of his birthday with his family in Dream City. The delicious aroma wafting from the kitchen indicated that his girls were preparing breakfast. His son, Shin, entered, informing Izuku that his mothers were calling him downstairs. Izuku agreed to join them after a quick workout and shower. Shin expressed his desire to work out with Izuku, and they both headed to the home gym, where they trained together. After their workout, they moved to the gravity chamber, where Izuku taught Shin martial arts and helped him refine his abilities. After their training session, Shin went to shower and prepare for the day, and Izuku followed suit. After refreshing himself, he dressed and made his way downstairs, where he was greeted by the sight of his girls setting the table. He smiled warmly at them, feeling grateful for their presence. Evangel rushed to him, hugging him tightly, and he returned the affection with a kiss on her cheek, eliciting a giggle from her. As Izuku shared affectionate moments with each of his girls, Arakino asked if he had slept well, to which he responded affirmatively, feeling content in their company. It was a wonderful day, one of the best in Izuku's life. Kana expressed her joy, noting how amazing the party everyone organized for him had been. Ye encouraged everyone to dig into the food before it got cold, and Izuku eagerly agreed. They all sat down together, enjoying their meal as a family, sharing jokes and laughter. Izuku felt immense happiness watching his girls and children smile, reflecting on how much he cherished these moments. He thought about his commitment to protect his family, feeling a surge of determination. If anyone dared to harm them or make his little princess cry, he would ensure they faced dire consequences. After breakfast, Izuku headed to his castle and stood on the balcony, greeted by the cheers of his people. He smiled and waved, feeling the love and admiration radiating from them. The crowd shouted his name, praising him for his handsomeness and leadership. They expressed their gratitude for the peace he had brought to their lives, having once suffered in a world that had turned its back on them. Izuku felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing he had given them hope and a safe place to call home. Ye reminded him that his actions had saved them from their previous hardships, while Mavuka added that he had always ensured their happiness. I noted that to them, he was like a god and king, deserving of their loyalty and praise. Izuku raised his hand, signaling for silence, and addressed his beloved people. He expressed his happiness at their well-being and reminded them that he would always protect them, as they were dear to him. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Izuku felt a swell of pride as he saw children holding posters with his name. Meanwhile, in a distant building radiating a golden aura, a meeting was underway among the apostles. Teal, the strongest among them, shared news of new orders from Goddess Bella. They were to train new pawns to help achieve their goals. The names of these new recruits were revealed: Katsuki Bakugo, Shoto Todoroki, Izuku Yagi, Ejiro Kirishima, and Issei Hayu. Teal noted that one of them had a rather questionable reputation but could still be a valuable asset. Mika, another apostle, raised concerns about the Shadow Monarch, who had been a formidable opponent, eliminating many of their forces. Teal remained confident, outlining their plan to gain more followers and mana crystals while eliminating anyone who stood in their way. He believed they could turn the current fear among the people into an opportunity for recruitment. As the meeting continued, Izuku sat on his throne, contemplating the unusual quietness from the Iterim forces. He sensed they might be planning something, viewing him as a significant threat. He recalled hearing from Abyss and Void that the Union had been preparing for a potential confrontation. Izuku knew he had to stay vigilant, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Izuku did not want his enemies to be weak when he faced them. He intended to confront them at their lowest point. He created a ball of pure, blurred racier in his hand, contemplating the Quincy's, a race skilled in spiritual pressure that had once been defeated by the Soul Reapers 1,000 years ago, only to return seeking revenge. He recalled his past as Ichigo Kurosaki, reflecting on the difficult battle against Yawatch, who possessed the almighty ability to see and alter the future. Although Izuku had mastered most of his powers, he had not utilized his Quincy abilities in some time. He remembered that Yawatch had evolved his powers into what he called Quincy Volume 50 Stern Dike, a form that significantly increased strength. The 13 Court Guard had struggled to defeat them, especially after Yawatch killed the Soul King and claimed his power. With Aizen's assistance, Izuku had managed to win, ultimately taking the Soul King's place himself. Bellion and Igris stood by his side. Bellion inquired about Izuku's thoughts, to which Izuku responded that it was nothing for them to worry about. He was focused on how to grow even stronger and evolve his Quincy powers, feeling the need to break through his current limits. Igris suggested that Izuku might also be considering the Iterim, noting their unusual silence and lack of action, which concerned him. Bru joined them, expressing his worry over the Iterim's inactivity, suggesting they might be plotting something significant. Suddenly, Izuku sensed a powerful spiritual pressure that felt familiar, causing his eyes to widen in shock. He realized it belonged to a Quincy, questioning what one was doing in this world. Rising to his feet, he was followed closely by Bellion, Igris, and Baru, a dark aura enveloping him. Izuku decided they needed to investigate the presence of the Quincy. As he arrived at Dream City, he spotted a Quincy observing the area from above. The Quincy wondered about the source of the immense spiritual pressure, feeling a chill run down his spine as he sensed a formidable presence. He instinctively felt the need to flee, realizing he was in danger. Izuku approached the Quincy, stating that he had no time for games and demanded to know who he was and why he was there. He reminded the Quincy that this was not his world and urged him to speak before it was too late. The Quincy attempted to escape into the shadows, But Izuku, channeling Reisure through his hands, pulled him back into the light, glaring at him with a menacing aura. The air grew heavy with tension, and the Quincy trembled in fear, his instincts screaming for him to run. Izuku insisted that the Quincy would not escape and repeated his question, warning him of the dire consequences of silence. He demanded to know who he was and what he was doing in this world, emphasizing that he would not ask again. As the scene continued, Izuku held the Quincy tightly, releasing his bloodlust, which terrified the Quincy even more. He sensed something unusual about the Quincy, detecting the spiritual pressure of a hollow within him. Realizing that this Quincy resembled an Arrancar from Hueco Mundo, Izuku concluded that Yawatch had resorted to using them as foot soldiers out of fear. Determined to extract information, Izuku decided that he no longer needed answers. He would eliminate the threat instead. He activated his Devour skill, consuming the Quincy whole and feeling his power increase. He then turned his attention to the shadow the Quincy had attempted to use for escape, realizing how Quincy's traveled through shadows. Understanding this was how they had bypassed his barrier, Izuku infused Reisure into his hands, enlarging the shadow and sending a shadow soldier to inform his family that he had urgent matters to attend to, promising to return soon. A few days later, Izuku contemplated how Yawatch had managed to survive. He leaped into the shadows, enveloping himself in Reisure as he raced toward a light in the distance. As he increased his speed, he burst through the light and found himself in Hueco Mundo. The landscape was devastated, with blue flames flickering everywhere. Izuku thought to himself that this was just like before, realizing that this world mirrored his past as Ichigo. He questioned the system about the timeline he was in, learning that it was indeed his old world but in a different timeline. The system explained that in this timeline he had perished in the final battle against Aizen, and Rukia had taken her own life due to her deep love for him. He also noted that the people in this world might be slightly different. Izuku reflected on how he had died against Aizen despite his power, but he reassured himself that he would protect everyone his other self had cared for. He promised to take good care of this world and its inhabitants, hoping that his counterpart could rest easy in the afterlife. Suddenly, his senses heightened as he noticed someone falling from the sky. He extended his arms and caught the person, recognizing her immediately. A smile crept onto his face as he saw Neliel, who seemed confused at first. When she sensed his spiritual energy, her eyes widened in shock, and tears began to form as she recognized him. Izuku greeted her warmly, introducing himself as Izuku now. Neliel, overwhelmed with emotion, hugged him tightly, and he returned the embrace, kissing her forehead gently. He could tell that she still held deep feelings for his other self, Ichigo, and it warmed his heart. Neliel expressed how much she missed Ichigo, and Izuku reassured her that he missed her too, but he was not the Ichigo she remembered. He explained his origins from a different timeline and shared some of his memories with her. Regardless of the differences, Neliel was just happy to see him again. She declared her love for him, regardless of the timeline, and kissed him again, leaving Izuku momentarily surprised. They shared a tender moment before he reminded her that they needed to focus on the current situation. Neliel informed him that enemies had appeared out of nowhere, capturing some hollows. Izuku promised to save them and kissed her forehead again, writing a rune on her back to teleport her to his mansion. He instructed her to explain everything to Rukia and his other wives upon her arrival. With a nod, she kissed him once more before he activated the teleportation spell, sending her safely to his home. Once she was gone, Izuku stood up and rushed toward the source of the overwhelming spiritual pressure. He was determined to confront the threat looming over them. Meanwhile, at the location of the captured hollows, chains bound them as Quincy foot soldiers dragged them along. An ominous figure announced a cruel selection competition for the hollows and Arrancar, demanding that they beg for mercy to save their lives. Izuku, having arrived, sat calmly in a chair with his hollow mask on, ready to intervene. His ally, Bor, offered to handle the situation, but Izuku insisted on taking care of it himself. The figure, startled by Izuku's presence, questioned who he was. Izuku simply stated that a soon-to-be-dead man did not need to know his identity. As Quincy soldiers began to surround him, Izuku dismissed them as weak. With a fierce glare, he unleashed his power, causing their heads to explode in an instant, leaving the remaining soldiers in shock. One of them, Wilj Opie, introduced himself as one of Yawatch's Stern Ritters. Izuku recognized him as a pawn of Yawatch and taunted him, asking if he intended to do something. Wilj, receiving orders from Yawatch, prepared to eliminate the threat before him. Izuku welcomed the challenge, releasing his rapier and preparing for the confrontation. As Wilj activated his Quincy final form, Izuku sensed the surge of power. He was intrigued by this new ability and was eager to see what it could do. With a confident demeanor, he encouraged Wilj to show him more, ready for the battle that lay ahead. The challenge was set, and Izuku felt the thrill of the fight as he faced Quilch. With a swift motion, Quilch charged at him, brandishing his rapier sword. In response, Izuku picked up a stick, blocking the blade with surprising ease, causing Quilch's eyes to widen in shock. The unexpected strength of Izuku caught him off guard. As Izuku moved the stick aside, he felt a sharp pain as his hand was cleanly severed. He grimaced but quickly adapted, using his other hand to shoot rapier arrows at Izuku while absorbing the rapier around Hueco Mundo to heal his injury. However, the arrows struck an invisible barrier, leaving Quilch in disbelief. He couldn't comprehend how Izuku, without using any spiritual energy, could be so powerful. Izuku, with a confident demeanor, declared that nothing was impossible for him. He found the situation tedious, noting that he could have defeated Quilch with just a glare. To him, Quilch was merely an insect that needed to be crushed, and he was graciously allowing him to breathe for the moment. Izuku had expected more from Quilch, feeling that perhaps his expectations were too high or that Quilch simply lacked the strength to showcase his full capabilities. As Quilch ground his teeth in frustration, Izuku's presence loomed over him, emanating an overwhelming bloodlust that paralyzed Quilch with fear. Izuku sensed a shift in the battle and decided to change his approach. He appeared right in front of Quilch, extending his hand as if to grab him. He announced his intention to end Quilch's life, expressing his disdain for his weakness. With a swift motion, he crushed Quilch's head, absorbing the rapier to grow even stronger. As he scanned the area, he noticed another Quincy attempting to escape into the shadows. Izuku swiftly intercepted him, and the Quincy launched an attack with his rapier arrows, which harmlessly bounced off Izuku's body, leaving him unscathed. The Quincy's eyes widened in shock and disbelief as Izuku reprimanded him for his weak attack, questioning whether Yawatch had taught him nothing. Izuku, dismissing the Quincy as a mere nuisance, declared that he had no time for him and intended for him to perish as well. The other Quincy, pale and terrified, could only smile nervously in response. Izuku, with a commanding presence, used his Monarch authority to crush the Quincy's body into a compact form. He then sent Igris to rescue Tyr, who was hiding in the shadows, leading to Yawatch's hideout. After a brief moment, Igris returned, and Izuku praised him for his efforts. He instructed Igris to return to his shadow, promising to call upon him when needed. After healing Tyr, he explained the situation to her. Grateful for her rescue, Tyr thanked Izuku, who offered to teleport her to a safe location where he had previously sent Nell. She agreed, and in a surprising gesture, kissed Izuku on the cheek, leaving him momentarily stunned. She promised a reward upon his return, and Izuku, with a smile, expressed his anticipation. After teleporting Tyr to his mansion, Izuku surveyed the battlefield littered with the bodies of fallen hollows and Quincy's. He commanded the dead to rise, and they became his shadow soldiers. Summoning Zangetsu, he felt its aura and smiled, ready to begin the next phase of his mission. Determined, he created a portal and stepped through, finding himself in the sky above the Soul Society, which was engulfed in flames. The sight of injured Soul Reapers, including Kimpachi, Byakuya, and Toshiro, filled him with rage. The Quincy's had wreaked havoc, and sensing that Yamamoto's spiritual pressure was gone, he felt a surge of anger. Releasing his own spiritual pressure and bloodlust, Izuku instilled fear in everyone around him. The atmosphere thickened with an aura of death, causing the Soul Reapers to tremble. He communicated telepathically, introducing himself as Izuku-sung Kurosaki, also known as Ichigo Kurosaki. The shock among the Soul Reapers was palpable as they processed his words. He warned them that in exactly 1 minute, every Quincy present would meet a gruesome end. His wrath was deep, and he was prepared to unleash chaos. As he landed, he made a hand sign, his eyes glowing with power, intensifying the aura of death surrounding him. With a powerful declaration, he activated his Monarch domain, Abyss Void, enveloping the Soul Society in darkness. Time seemed to freeze for everyone except Izuku. He knew he had limited time before the effects of the ability would take hold, and he needed to act swiftly. With instinct guiding him, Izuku began to move, utilizing his incredible speed to cut through the Quincy's with precision. He was relentless, determined to show them the true extent of his power. As the minute passed, he continued his assault, leaving a trail of defeated foes in his wake. As the ability came to an end, the Soul Society was left in shock, witnessing the aftermath of Izuku's wrath. The battlefield was littered with the remnants of the Quincy forces, a testament to his overwhelming strength and determination. The scene unfolded with bodies still standing, their heads missing, eyes wide in shock and disbelief at the devastation around them. The strongest monarch, known as the Shadow Monarch, King of the Dead, God of Darkness, and Soul King, had just defeated over 100,000 Quincy's in a single minute. Izuku-sung Kurosaki truly lived up to his title as the strongest being, proving once again why he was feared as the one who stood above all. He exhaled cold air, panting slightly, a trace of blood on his cheek. As the tension hung in the air, Izuku glared in the direction of Yawatch, the Quincy king, who had caused so much destruction in the Soul Society. He warned Yawatch to leave while he still had the chance, his voice filled with authority. Yawatch, visibly angered, wondered how Ichigo Kurosaki could still be alive, deeming it impossible. Yet, he resolved to kill him again, determined to ensure that his plans would not be thwarted. Just as Yawatch prepared to rush at Izuku, shadows began to seep from his clothing and those of the other Quincy's. Realizing something was amiss, Yawatch questioned Hashwolf, suspecting that someone had intervened. Hashwolf replied that it would have been pointless to try and stop Yawatch. With a final glare at Izuku, Yawatch entered a portal, leaving Izuku seething with anger. Izuku placed a hand on his face, frustration boiling within him. He vowed that when they met again, it would be on sight, and he would ensure Yawatch faced a painful end. The weight of the suffering caused by Yawatch's actions hung heavily on Izuku, and he promised to show him what true fear felt like. The scene shifted to an underground prison where someone was sealed away. Izuku entered, his gaze fixed ahead. As he approached, he noticed the figure had longer hair than expected and feminine features, causing his eyes to widen in surprise. He realized that in this timeline she was a girl. Standing before her, even though her eyes were covered, she sensed Izuku's presence and acknowledged him. She remarked on the spiritual energy he emitted, recognizing it as Ichigo Kurosaki's but stronger. Izuku introduced himself as Izuku-sung Kurosaki, clarifying that he was from a different timeline. The girl introduced herself as Ariel Sosuk, playfully addressing him as Izuku-an. Izuku found himself taken aback by her charm, but he quickly shifted his focus to a more serious tone. He inquired about the fear she instilled in others. Ariel explained that when one reaches a level of power where even a glance can cause devastation, fear becomes a natural reaction among those weaker than them. Izuku acknowledged her encounter with Yawatch, noting that he was indeed an interesting figure. A smirk crossed Izuku's face as he recognized the mutual respect between powerful beings. Ariel, intrigued by his demeanor, asked if her transcendence was worthy of validation. Despite her playful tone, Izuku recognized the sincerity behind her words. As they continued their conversation, Izuku reflected on the differences between Ariel and the Aizen he knew from his universe. While the Aizen he encountered was egotistical and believed himself to be above all, Ariel exhibited a different, more relatable side. Izuku found himself drawn to her, intrigued by the complexities of their respective realities. Izuku reflected on the past, recalling how he had helped defeat Yawatch while in Ichigo's form. Despite their victory, Yawatch had returned, driven by a dream of ruling the world, which ultimately led to his demise at Izuku's hands. It was a chaotic battle, and Izuku felt a pang of regret for the conflict that had unfolded. As he observed Ariel, he noted how different she was from her counterpart. She was calm, approachable, and not aggressive like the other version he had encountered. Izuku's heart whispered to him that she had not been responsible for his death in this timeline. He sensed that their final battle had occurred, but he did not believe she had been the one to end his life. He decided to ask Ariel a question, hoping for honesty. She responded with curiosity, prompting him to inquire if she had been the one to kill him in this timeline. Ariel assured him that she had not taken his life. Izuku studied her expression and could see sincerity in her eyes. Confused by the rumors surrounding her, he wondered why others claimed she had killed him. Baru, his loyal companion, questioned whether Izuku truly believed Ariel was innocent. Izuku affirmed his trust in her, sensing no deception in her demeanor. Ariel then explained the tragic events that had unfolded. Yawatch had been the one to kill Ichigo in this timeline, awakening earlier than expected. Ichigo had sacrificed himself to protect her, unleashing a powerful attack against Yawatch, who viewed him as a significant threat. This act had altered the timeline, making it appear as though Ichigo had perished in their final confrontation. Izuku listened intently as Ariel recounted Ichigo's last wish for her to protect the Soul Society and his loved ones. Yawatch had approached her afterward, seeking her allegiance, but she had refused. Despite being sealed, she had managed to use her Zanpakuto to stall for time. Curious about Rukia's fate in this universe, Izuku learned that she had been the only one unaffected by Yawatch's powers. Upon hearing the news of Ichigo's death, she had been overwhelmed with grief and had chosen to take her own life to be with him. Feeling a surge of determination, Izuku decided to break the seal binding Ariel. As he infused his shadow energy and rapier into the seal, Ariel's eyes widened in surprise. She questioned his motives, and he reassured her that he believed she deserved freedom. His warm smile made her blush, and she expressed her concern about others believing she was responsible for Ichigo's death. Izuku promised to protect her and to reveal the truth to everyone. He embraced her, and she felt a warmth in her heart, overwhelmed by the closeness they shared. From that moment on, she knew she was under his care. The scene shifted to the captains, who were gathered for a meeting to discuss the recent devastation in the Soul Society. The atmosphere was somber as they reflected on the destruction caused by their enemies. Soi Fan lamented the loss, while Restu noted the significant casualties among their ranks. Jushiro mourned the death of head captain Genryusai Shigekuni Yamamoto, and Shunsui spoke of the enemy leader's overwhelming strength. As they deliberated, the focus turned to the mysterious figure who had driven the enemy leader away, now known as Izuku-san Kurosaki. Toshiro highlighted the incredible feat of Izuku defeating half of the Quincy forces in mere moments. Suddenly, the door opened, and Izuku entered, holding Ariel's hand. The captains were taken aback, unable to comprehend how she had escaped her seal. Toshiro questioned the impossibility of her release, while Soi Fan demanded an explanation. Izuku assured them that Ariel posed no threat and introduced himself as Izuku-san Kurosaki, previously known as Ichigo Kurosaki. The captains were shocked but remained cautious, ready to defend themselves. Izuku released his spiritual pressure, causing the air to thicken and weigh heavily upon them. The captains fell to their knees, struggling to breathe, while Ariel stood unaffected by the immense power radiating from him. He commanded them to stand down, asserting his authority and intent to clarify the situation. Izuku felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He knew that if he had to take action, it could lead to dire consequences, and he hoped to avoid that. The captains around him were engulfed in a heavy darkness, as if they were standing at the edge of an abyss. Restu had never experienced such a dark aura in his life. The presence before them was so powerful that it brought every captain to their knees. Soi Fan wondered who this mysterious figure could be. Ariel felt the dense spiritual pressure and bloodlust surrounding her, barely able to stand. She thought to herself that Izuku truly was a monster in human form. She hoped Yawatch had a plan to entertain this formidable opponent because when they fought, Izuku would show him what true death felt like. Izuku then asked if they were ready to listen. As they nodded, he ceased releasing his spiritual pressure and bloodlust, watching them as they got back on their feet. He began to explain everything, sharing how he was from a different timeline and how Yawatch had altered reality, leaving them surprised and shocked. He made it clear that no one should harm Ariel, and they nodded in understanding. Jushiro spoke up, expressing concern that Central 46 and the higher-ups would not agree and would likely try to execute her. Shunsui asked what Izuku planned to do about them. Izuku's response was straightforward. He would eliminate each of them until none remained, confident that the old leaders would not pose a threat. The group was taken aback by his determination, while the girls present couldn't help but find his confidence appealing. A messenger arrived, announcing that the royal palace was approaching, which irritated Izuku. He remarked on the uselessness of the king, noting that his son caused chaos and then showed up the next day, a move he deemed cowardly. He suspected the king would not come himself, so he decided they should go meet the royal entourage. The scene shifted outside, where everyone awaited Squad Zero. Izuku looked up, contemplating the odds of facing 5 opponents. Bellion reassured him that victory was certain, but Izuku reminded himself not to underestimate them, as this was a different timeline. Suddenly, a massive pillar landed nearby, prompting Izuku to wonder if he would truly win. As the doors of the pillar opened, Squad Zero emerged, joking and goofing around. Izuku observed them with a blank expression, expecting them to be different in this timeline. In his shadow realm, his shadows watched Squad Zero with similar expressions of disbelief. Bru remarked that they were supposed to be the strongest squad, and the shadows agreed. Izuku concluded that nothing had changed, they were just as foolish as he remembered. He felt confident he would win. Squad Zero greeted everyone, with Tanjiro leading the way and asking if they had been eating well and staying healthy. Shinji noted that they were quite different from what he had imagined, and Izuku shared his disappointment as well. Kiryu then recognized Shinji, commenting on how rare it was not to see Hiyori with him. Shinji was surprised by her appearance, noting that she looked different, to which Kiryu playfully insisted she hadn't changed much. Tanjiro interrupted, bringing the focus back to the group as they continued their light-hearted banter. It had been a while since Unohana and Tanjiro had seen each other. Tanjiro inquired if Restu was putting the healing techniques he had taught her to good use, to which she replied that she was doing quite well. As he moved closer to Ariel, he released a hint of his spiritual pressure, causing her to wonder if he thought it could intimidate her. Tanjiro then attempted to make a remark but was suddenly interrupted. His instincts kicked in as he narrowly dodged a punch from Izuku, who had moved with incredible speed. Izuku warned him to back off, expressing his disdain for being too close. The members of Squad Zero watched in awe, barely able to comprehend the speed of Izuku's attack. Ichibe noted that it had been a long time since they had all seen each other and suggested they catch up later. Shunsui remarked that everyone seemed unchanged and asked what business they had in coming with their squad this time. Izuku, releasing more of his spiritual pressure and bloodlust, addressed Ichibe directly, stating that they all knew the Soul King was unable to come himself and demanded to know their purpose. The atmosphere was tense, with Squad Zero struggling to withstand the weight of Izuku's spiritual pressure. Ariel, however, was unfazed, using her rapier to create a barrier around herself. She found Izuku's presence intriguing, admiring his many qualities. Ichibe finally spoke, asking Izuku to tone down his spiritual pressure, which he complied with, much to the relief of everyone present. Ichibe explained that they had been sent to rebuild the 13th Court Guard squads at the behest of the Soul King and that they would be taking Izuku to the royal palace. Izuku, smiling, firmly declined the offer, stating that it was impossible for them to force him to comply. This irritated Soy Fawn, who confronted Ichibe about their negligence while the Siriidii was under threat. She insisted that Izuku would not be going anywhere with them. Ignoring Soy Fawn, Ichibe turned to the others, suggesting they finish their original purpose for being there. Soy Fawn attempted to interject but was interrupted when Tanjiro swiftly moved behind her, reaching for her hand. Izuku quickly intervened, grabbing Tanjiro's hand instead, prompting Soy Fawn to jump back in surprise at their speed. Tanjiro then covered his hand in rapier and threw a punch at Izuku, who absorbed the hit without flinching, creating a cloud of smoke. As the smoke cleared, Izuku stood unharmed, which shocked Tanjiro. Izuku remarked on Tenjiro's punch, claiming it lacked strength and proceeded to demonstrate his own power. Utilizing his monarch authority, he brought Tenjiro to the ground, rendering him unable to move. With a swift motion, Izuku sent Tenjiro crashing through multiple walls of the Suriidii, leaving everyone in disbelief, except for Ariel, who had anticipated this display of strength. Toshiro acknowledged Izuku's dense spiritual pressure and bloodlust but was taken aback by his raw strength. Shinji noted that Izuku had sent a Squad Zero member flying with just one punch, realizing how exceptional he truly was. Kiryu and Senjimaru marveled at Izuku's power, considering that even Ichibe struggled to achieve such a feat. Ariel observed that Izuku's punch was purely physical strength, without the aid of rapier or energy enhancement. Ichibe sighed, having warned Tenjiro not to provoke Izuku, but he couldn't help but smile, recognizing that the Soul King had been right about him. Izuku was indeed a force destined to save the world from Yawatch. Izuku focused on the task at hand. Senjimaru assured him that everything they needed was present, carrying both Rinji and Byakuya in capsules. As she approached, Izuku glared at her, a fierce determination in his eyes as he summoned his scythe, prepared to defend his friends if necessary. The onlookers gasped in surprise. They hadn't realized he wielded any weapon besides a sword. Senjimaru addressed him, telling him there was no need for hostility. Izuku acknowledged that she would have faced dire consequences if she had intended to harm them during her retrieval. Senjimaru playfully complimented him, but Izuku remained serious, warning her to tread carefully. Baru, his loyal companion, suggested healing Rinji and Byakuya himself, but Izuku believed it was best for Squad Zero to assist them as they could enhance their strength. He felt it was important not to alter too many events in this timeline, especially after the changes brought about by Yawatch and his own presence. He decided it was best to let them grow stronger at the royal palace. Ichibe approached Izuku one last time, inquiring if he would join them at the royal palace. Izuku politely declined, stating he had pressing matters to attend to. Ichibe nodded in understanding, while Izuku exchanged smirks with Senjimaru and Kiryu, who blushed at his charm. As they departed, Izuku turned to the girls present: Soifon, Retsu, Ariel, Ranjiku, and Yoruchi, who had just arrived. He greeted them warmly, causing their hearts to flutter. He suggested they spend time together and get to know each other better, which made the girls blush even more. They eagerly took hold of him, dragging him along as he smiled to himself, finding their enthusiasm endearing. Months passed, and Izuku spent time with the girls, who confessed their feelings for him. He welcomed their affections and they began dating. With the help of his shadows, he trained the Soul Reapers, assisting them in unlocking their full potential. He shared stories of his world and life with them, and they accepted his other relationships, as long as they could be part of his life. One day, Izuku headed to Retsu's office, wondering how much stronger they had become since their time at the royal palace. He knocked, and upon her invitation, entered to find her reading a book. He greeted her affectionately and she smiled back, putting her book aside. Retsu asked about his visit, and Izuku commented on the advancements in their technology compared to his world. He then requested her help with Kimpachi, revealing that he was holding back in battle. Retsu hesitated, reminding Izuku of the risks involved, including the possibility of one of them getting hurt. Izuku reassured her, whispering a proposal that left her blushing. He suggested she become one of his wives, which would change her name to Sung Kurosaki, leaving Zaraki as the only Kimpachi. Overwhelmed by the idea, Retsu fainted, and Izuku caught her, chuckling at her reaction. The next day, Izuku stood before his girls, dressed for business. He reassured them of his strength, telling them not to worry as he prepared to face potential danger. Yoruchi expressed concern about him entering enemy territory, but he remained confident, kissing each of them before creating a portal with his sword and stepping through. He found himself outside the Quincy base, smirking as he concealed his spiritual pressure. Inside, he observed the Quincy's lined up, with Yawatch on a platform alongside Yuryu and Hashwolf. Yawatch addressed his followers, recounting their past struggles and declaring the time had come for them to reclaim their honor by defeating the Soul Society. He named Yuryu as his successor, dismissing any objections from the Stern Ritters. As Yawatch departed with Yuryu, Izuku placed one of his shadows in Yuryu's shadow to monitor how Yawatch empowered his followers. He watched the unfolding drama as tensions rose among the Stern Ritters, highlighting the absolute authority of Yawatch's words. There was no room for questioning Hashwalth's loyalty to Yawatch. As Izuku observed him, Hashwalth gently touched his face. Izuku thought about the rarity of such loyalty, realizing that someone like Hashwalth would likely need to be eliminated before he became a threat in the final battle. Suddenly, Izuku received a flood of memories from his shadow, causing his eyes to widen in surprise. He pondered the implications of this revelation, realizing that if his Quincy powers were connected to someone from 1,000 years ago, it might mean he could replicate what Hashwalth had done with Yuryu. Izuku was determined to enhance his abilities, believing that experimentation was the key to unlocking greater powers. As he passed by Hashwalth, he sensed a presence, as if someone had just walked by him. Hashwalth also felt a strange sensation, wondering what had just occurred. Izuku moved to a distance and created a barrier, where he dedicated a week to testing his theories. He felt himself growing stronger and decided it was time for his final experiment. He thought about how he would soon master his Quincy powers, but his speed and strength were still unpredictable. He knew he needed to head to the royal palace soon. He granted himself a script with the letter E for elements. As he experimented with elemental powers, a grin spread across his face. He had finally mastered his Quincy abilities. Returning to the Quincy's, he activated stealth and entered the meeting room where the Stern Ritters were gathered. Intrigued by their discussion, he decided to stay and listen. He hoped their plans would be worth his time, but if they bored him, he might just take drastic action. The meeting began with Hashwalth addressing the group. Questions arose about their strategy to defeat the Soul Reapers, particularly regarding the captains and their Bankai. Robert questioned the necessity of killing the captains, while BG9 wondered if their foot soldiers could handle the weakened Soul Reapers. Hashwalth explained that there was more to be gained than just victory. They aimed to crush the Soul Reapers' hope entirely. He detailed how the captains, stripped of their Bankai, would struggle to find ways to fight back, clinging to a faint chance of survival. As Hashwalth spoke, Izuku's frustration grew, and he instinctively released his bloodlust. The atmosphere shifted, and everyone in the room felt the intensity of his presence, their eyes widening in shock. Yawatch, sensing Izuku's arrival, began communicating with the Quincy's telepathically, instructing them to restrain him. Some Quincy's shot arrows at Izuku, but they had no effect on him, leaving them in disbelief. Hashwalth then charged at Izuku, swinging his sword toward his neck. In response, Izuku activated his Quincy powers, using one of his abilities. Blue Racier enveloped his skin, hardening it and causing Hashwalth's sword to bounce off, leaving him astonished. Izuku taunted Hashwalth, suggesting he was eager to end the confrontation. Just as Izuku was about to take decisive action, Yawatch intervened, kicking him back slightly. Izuku acknowledged Yawatch's presence, teasing him about coming to the rescue of his loyal follower. Yawatch warned Izuku that he wouldn't leave alive, but Izuku found the threat amusing. He decided to spare them for now, but he would plant a seed of fear in their minds. Summoning his soldiers, he commanded them to eliminate the Quincy's present, sparing only the Stern Ritters and Yawatch, as he had plans for their Bankai. His soldiers responded affirmatively, ready to carry out his orders. As they charged toward the foot soldiers, Izuku turned his attention back to Yawatch and the Stern Ritters, smirking as he prepared for battle, his hands charged with mana and racier. He declared that it was time to end the delay and engage in combat. Yawatch instructed Hashwalth to take the other Quincy's and retreat, vowing to handle Izuku himself. Hashwalth complied, ready to execute the king's command. Izuku swiftly charged at Yawatch, grabbing his head and slamming it into the ground. He then leaped into the air, delivering a powerful kick to Hashwalth's face, sending him flying. The other Quincy's unleashed a barrage of arrows at Izuku, but he activated a Quincy ability that belonged to Yawatch. A shield of blue racier materialized around him, causing Yawatch's eyes to widen in surprise, realizing that Izuku's version of the ability was superior to his own. Masked masculine rushed at Izuku, throwing a punch that Izuku absorbed effortlessly. He countered with a series of quick strikes, sending Mask de Masculine crashing into the wall. Izuku declared that he would use Mask de Masculine as an example, delivering a rapid combo of attacks. The Quincy's and Yawatch could only watch in disbelief as Mask de Masculine struggled to keep up with Izuku's increased speed. Izuku taunted him, enjoying the moment. He charged shadow energy through his hand and struck, creating a hole in Mask de Masculine's body. As James manifested and cheered for him, he was suddenly cut down, but Izuku quickly retaliated, engulfing Mask de Masculine in flames. Looking around, Izuku noticed that Yawatch and the Stern Ritters had vanished. He called back his shadows, then turned his attention to the remaining Quincy's who were still standing. Determined to make a statement, Izuku leaped into the air, enhancing his voice with rancor so that everyone could hear him. He proclaimed that the title of king was rightfully his, and he had merely let them borrow it. Coding Zangetsu with energy, he prepared to unleash his technique. The energy around his sword began to take shape as he announced the name of his attack, Abyss Destruction. 2 dragons formed from the energy, and the remaining Quincy's lost all hope, with one dropping his sword and bowing as their lives flashed before their eyes. Izuku appeared before them, launching the Gestuga Tensho dragon at them. The attack caused a massive explosion, enveloping the area in smoke. As the smoke cleared, it revealed a huge crater, with Izuku landing gracefully, shadow energy swirling around him. With a determined look, he stated that his next destination was the royal palace. To be continued.